Skydome in Toronto, and yes, a battle for first. Yeah, sure, it's only week 2, but hey, hype is what we do best. Hey, folks, and welcome to the CFL and TSN and the Alouettes and the Argos. James Duthie, along with my friends, Eric Tillman, Matt Dunning, and Chris Schultz. And yes, it's early. The guys still getting confused about their roles here. Before the show, Eric tried to trade Chris to Winnipeg.
For future considerations.
Let the GM Let the GM thing go. You're an analyst. Let the GM thing go, buddy. And this game could be a throwback to old-time CFL days. You have the Argos, a team employing 2 tight ends at times that ran for almost 300 yards last week against Montreal, another team that loves to run with an old-style, straight-ahead running back in Mike Pringle. But the Als, Matt, will use a little different offensive scheme this week than they did last?
I think they'll have to, and they have to be more patient, James, this week. Last week, they saw man-to-man coverage. It's mano-y-mano. That tends to lend to big play situations. This week, they're facing more zone. You have defenders falling back into zone coverage, and you have to attack that area coverage. Either throw in the zone or you throw underneath the zone, and you also can throw screens and run the ball to Mike Pringle. This plays extremely well into Montreal's hands, and they'll have to be a patient ball club to move the ball down the field and put the ball in the end zone, Eric.
And on the other sideline, Matt, I think the key for Toronto is to make big plays. Last week against Saskatchewan, they ran for almost 280 yards. But again, that was against a young and inexperienced defense. Tonight against Montreal, you're talking about a different defense, a different breed of cat. So I think tonight, if they can't control the line of scrimmage, it's going to require big plays. In their 2 tight end sets, look for the wide receivers, Darryl Mitchell and Tyrone Brown, to be isolated in man coverage. Those are 2 guys that can run, 2 guys that can change field position. If they get some big plays from those guys, I think they've got a chance to win, Chris.
And guys, I want to see if they can do it again with these 2 tight ends. I mean, that was remarkable, the success they had last week. Can they do it again against the Montreal Alouettes? There are some advantages incorporating a tight end. First and foremost, at the point of attack, you have a bigger, stronger tight end against the small style of the CFL linebacker. I think that's advantage offense. The biggest advantage is it helps your offensive tackles out immensely because it takes away that outside edge pass rusher, which is the hardest one-on-one blocking on the offensive line. But it also helps a quarterback because when the tight end's there, that brings someone to the line of scrimmage. It makes those quarterbacks that read that much easier. Man, you too, James. I want to see if they can do it again with the tight ends.
All right, and more from these guys and Chris a little bit later on in the show. For now, though, let us send you out to Skydome and the guys who will call this one, John Wells and Glenn Suter.
James, as you know, it is the Argos Dome opener, and we're happy to report that the Dome is open under a bright blue Southern Ontario sky at the foot of CN Tower. The story everyone has been wondering about, who would start at quarterback for the Argos, and John Heward let us know just a few moments before the pregame warm-up.
Yeah, he waited until warm-up to tell everybody who would start at quarterback, including the 2 quarterbacks themselves. Jimmy Kemp started versus the Riders last week. He gets to start here tonight versus the Montreal Alouettes. But don't be surprised to see Jay Barker early and often in this game. Heward's philosophy is simple. If you make a mistake at the quarterback, you're coming out. We may see Greg Hill, the 3rd-team guy, and didn't Adrian Smith play a little last year, too?
We won't see him.
No, we won't see him.
For the Alouettes, Thomas Haskins injured his hand last week. He is unavailable, so Winston October draws in on special teams.
Yeah, they need the spark on special teams. The Owls want more production from the return game. They should get it out of Winston October. Field position is the key there.
And it's Looney night here. The Argos' new owner, Sherwood Schwarz, will give one lucky fan a Looney for every fanny that's in the seat here at Skydome tonight. So someone could walk away very wealthy if the Argos draw well.
Thought Looney Night was named after Schultz. Lots more on this game ahead, but when we return, we'll look at all the other games coming up this week. Can the Lions pull off another miracle? Can the Riders bounce back? And can the Tabbies get it going? That next.
CFL football on TSN is brought to you by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian.
The other games in the CFL this week, we've got the Rough Riders at BC, Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific for that one. The Stamps and the Bombers Friday night. Stamps looked terrific last week. Bombers improved, but still lost and hurting a little bit. And the Ticats and the Eskimos, that is our Adidas Friday night football game, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific time here on TSN. Let us talk about all 3 of those games, starting with the Friday night game. And Matt, the Ticats have to be in a little bit of a state of shock after blowing that big lead and losing to BC.
Oh, contraire, Duthie. That is not true. That is not true. Steeltown is simply not in a state of panic. They have a veteran-laden football team that knows exactly what they have to fix. They have to hang on to the football. Last week, they simply just put the ball on the ground, at least 7 drop passes. Danny McManus was not on top of his game, but that's one big reason why. Defensively, special teams-wise, they played well enough to win. So when they go to Edmonton, a team that is struggling in Commonwealth Stadium, 2-7 last year, fell last week in Cowtown, it's going to be a challenge for them to squeeze that football against an Edmonton team that's looking to rebound, James.
As for the Bombers in Calgary, you know, Winnipeg, by all accounts, is a better football team this year, but tough start for them. They have to go to Montreal and then get the Stamps, who looked unbelievable last week.
So what? That was last week. This is a great early season opportunity for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but it's not going to be easy. Calgary has won the last 6 games when these two teams meet. If Kerwin Bell can get Milt Stegall the ball more often and down the field, I could see an upset. If George Jones can rip off a couple more of those 80, 90-yard runs, I see an upset. But if those defensive backs for Winnipeg don't play better man coverage and there's not a real vocal pass rush, then this is going to be a routine game for the Calgary Stampeders. This is a home game for Winnipeg. They got to play well, and they got to win, James.
As for Saskatchewan and BC, we talked about Hamilton and how they're supposed to be deflated, although Matt disagrees with me after last week's loss. BC Lions the other way. They come back all the way back and win in overtime. They have to be flying high.
Well, it's a great win for them. It's a win on Friday Night Football. We like that, but a road win after you travel across 3 time zones against the defending Grey Cup champions. What more could you ask for? I talked to Greg Mons on Sunday, and he was a little bit chippy. Imagine that, Greg. But seriously, he pointed out the fact that his team is something like 20-8 since he took over as head coach. And he has tremendous pride in his football team and the job that he's done. And he thinks maybe that we've not given them the credit they deserve. Well, Greg, I'll tell you this. Yes, you did come in first last year with a 13-5 record. And yes, you did host a playoff game. But also last year, you lost to 2 teams you had no business losing to, or actually almost did. You lost to Winnipeg early in the season, and Week 18 against an inferior Saskatchewan team, you almost lost. We have an opportunity this week to line up against a young Saskatchewan team. If you beat them in a game you should win, then you're really going to take a big step toward getting the respect that you think your team deserves and the respect that you want.
Geez, no wonder he's chippy the way you talk to him that way.
It won't be the last time he's chippy.
All right, when we return, well, he was an Argo WR as a wide receiver. Now he's a VP. Paul Mazzotti gets honored tonight. That coming up next. Log on to tsn.ca/CFL for the premier CFL website. Weekly features, including up close and sounds of the game, are just a click away. News, stats, and streaming video at your fingertips. The TSN football crew will keep you on top of the game with a weekly column, and you won't want to miss our picks for each and every CFL game. Everything you need is in one place. The inside scoop from the guys in the studio and all live action from the field. Get it at tsn.ca/CFL. Well, a dozen years, 556 catches, almost 9,000 yards receiving. Those numbers are impressive, and that's why Paul Mazzotti will have his number raised to the rafters tonight at Skydome. This is a receiver who made a lot of quarterbacks look very, very good.
Demi deep for Mazzotti. Goodbye. Looking for Mazzotti. He's got it. Morris rifles it wide open. A breakdown on that side, and Mazzotti will score. Airing out the football, looking deep, and he's got Paul Mazzotti. Foot race, and Mazzotti's going to win it. Oh, what a big one for the Argonauts. Giveaway, takeaway category this season. Deep throw. Touchdown, Mazzotti. Over is there. May have gotten there a little early, but the ball pops loose. Lands right in the lap of Mazzotti.
A terrific career and terrific numbers. By the way, I hate quarterbacks that wear 2 gloves. That's whippy. Who is that guy, number 16? Very, very impressive career for Paul Mazzotti, and well-deserving of being honored tonight, and now a future in management in the CFL. And as we saw in that pack, I think we saw a little bit of Chris Schultz. We saw Mr. Matt Dunnigan with the 2 gloves. You guys both played with this guy. He was a good football player.
We're going to put on the gloves here in a second, you and me, Duffy. Yes. Paul Mazzotti, congratulations. The sign of a good player is being able to get it done with a lot of folks. And we saw in that clip there, we saw Flutie, we saw Porce, saw myself, we saw Renfro, Kangemi, Foggy, Kerrigan, Bell, Barker, Kemp. Hey, the list goes on. Paul, you got it done with a lot of quarterbacks, and you made them all look good. And to the Flying Bonefish, your jersey is going to look good up atop that stadium.
Matt, this is a great honor for Paul, and one I think all of us that know him certainly think that he's very deserving of. He's a bright guy and a good character guy, and one thing that we did mention among his list of accomplishments, he married very, very well. But being around Paul at the end of his career, one thing that's not as obvious to the public that I want to point out, this is a guy that spent a lot of time with young players. Some veterans don't do that. Andrew English, Stefan Potasic, Andre Kerwin, they're all better football players because of Paul Mazzotti, and congrats to you, Paul. You've had a heck of a ride.
All right, you guys, I think Paul Mazzotti's biggest influence on this football team still has to come, I mean, as executive vice president. Wow. His marketing strategies, his influence, his direction on this team, well, it's going to mold this franchise for years and years to come. You know, in a lot of ways, it's a rookie for him. He's a rookie again because it's a new occupation. But his background as a player, I mean, the transition really won't be that difficult for Paul Mazzotti, James.
All right, Paul Mazzotti on to tonight. We'll have more on that, of course, during the game. But next, we'll get you ready for our football game. The Alouettes and the Argos. Battle of terrific linebackers. Calvin Tiggle, the best player in the league last year defensively. Kelly Wiltshire coming back to play his old team. That's next. Tune into the Tim Hortons CFL All-Star Challenge, the next episode, Thursday, July 27th, featuring Mike Pringle in the dinghy race. He will not have five big linemen in dinghies in front of him. So it'll be interesting to see how Michael makes out all by himself. All right, time now for our insider, who is the one and only Eric Tillman. And Eric, a few things to talk about this week. Let us start in Edmonton. Dan Crowley and the Eskimos had a rough start last week. They seem to be suffering without Nealon Green. Might they go quarterback shopping?
Well, I think part of it depends on Nealon and his availability, but certainly that is a concern in Eskimo land. And this week they made some phone calls, including one to Winnipeg, to check on the availability of Kerwin Bell. But it's very preliminary, and I think if Nealon can carry this team, Don would prefer to go that route.
You talked about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and a team that really had high hopes after a rough year last year, but right away, not only do they lose in Montreal, but they get the problems with injuries right away.
Just unbelievable bad luck out of the chute. So much of playing well is having good, healthy football players. In training camp, Dave Ritchie lost Brendan Dyson, an offensive lineman he really liked, to a knee injury. Mitch Running's been banged up. Then last week against Montreal, he lost two starting defensive linemen, Patrick Garth and Ron Warner, a guy they really liked. He has a torn bicep. And then Wade Miller, who is perhaps their best special teams player, a short Canadian who plays with all heart, goes down with an injury as well. So the first week and a half certainly hasn't been kind to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
In Montreal, you told us last week first about Neil Fort, the offensive lineman, coming back to the team, but perhaps that not exactly a sure thing. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. They have 10 days to account for Neil, and they're really happy with the two guys that they have, the two Americans that they brought in. So it's a little bit of a decision for Jim Pop and Charlie Taft. That could correct itself tonight with either a poor performance or an injury. But if those two play well and they don't get hurt, then Montreal's faced with a few options. One is to go with 3 American offensive linemen. Another is to wait another week and see what to do with Neil. And the third is to trade him. They'd love to have him back in the lineup because Jim Pop has a lot of respect for him. But some of the players aren't quite so enamored with Neil because he missed training camp. Still, Neil Ford is an awfully good football player, and I think you found a spot for him, James.
All right, thanks a lot, Eric. Now, on your couch or sitting in the stands, you see the play from one side, one angle. We take a play and we spin it around 360 degrees with a little gizmo we like to call virtual replay.
Virtual replay brought to you by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian.
Let's start with the Als, Matt. When they're threatening, it's usually Pringle territory, right?
That's exactly right. And down in this area of the football field, an offense like Montreal's is licking their chops. They virtually have the entire playbook at their disposal, and we all know that it's Pringle territory. So does Alfred Payton. Alfred Payton, number 56, on the end of the line of scrimmage, is supposed to take an outside release and contain Anthony Calvillo. Well, Heppel makes sure he takes an inside release. He's so concerned about Pringle getting the football, AC simply uses him as decoy and dumps it off to Heppel for the score. We're used to seeing Michael Soles in this role. Now we're seeing Bruno Heppel getting it done.
It is effective. As for the Argos, well, guys like Nick Araki and Tony Gabriel and Peter Della Riva will be pleased with their attack because, Chris, they're bringing back the tight ends. Let's have a look at their new attack.
Well, James, surprise, surprise. The Toronto Argonauts said they were going to run the football with a tight end, and they did it. But let's take a closer look at the key players that created this run success. Here's one, offensive right guard Steve Salter. Watch as he becomes the point of attack blocker on this play. The other key component is the tight end, James Haley. That's right, the tight end. What a concept. But still, it's the overall execution, not just two players, that makes a football play work. On top of your football screen is tight end Haley. He gets 2 blocks, a defensive end at level 1, up to level 2, and onto the linebacker. This makes it an easy read for Michael Jenkins because of that tight end block. Also from the end zone, watch Darren Joseph at the fullback position. His seal block right there really secures Steve Salter's point of attack block. Nobody even touches Jenkins until he's 15 yards downfield. A well-blocked, effective play by Toronto.
And as we saw right there and saw time and time again last week against Saskatchewan, the Argos just like to run, run, run. But they're saying going to this one, don't forget, they can do other things as well. Here's pinball.
We have so many guys that can make big plays, not only the guys you mentioned, but also Andre Kerwin. And then Tyrone Brown is just a threat from any spot on the field. So we got so many guys that can do good things that I think the quarterbacks want to get the ball in their hands quickly as possible and let them play.
Hopefully you can hit them in every way, and that's what you always want on your offense. You never want to be one-dimensional, and I don't think our offense isn't one-dimensional. We've got a lot of weapons on it.
Well, I think it's more of a challenge to myself because game time is easy. You've done all your preparation. So I really prepared myself on the days prior to the game, watching film, practicing hard. When it comes to game time, it's recreational. It's just fun. It comes easy. So I think they know I'm a good player, and I know I'm a good player, and I will show it again.
He is a terrific player, and you know he's looking forward to this game. That guy gets fired up for every single football game he plays. Time to talk a little bit more about these ones. And, you know, with the Alouettes, Thomas Haskins, who's their fine backup running back, out with a broken hand. And that would be a bad thing on the surface because of depth. But, Matt, Mike Pringle doesn't mind, does he?
I don't think he minds at all. In fact, I think this plays right into Montreal's hands and certainly Mike Pringle's hands. He likes to touch the ball as often as he possibly can, and every time he touches the ball, he gets better. A lot of backs are that way. They don't start getting in their rhythm until 15, 20 carries into the ball game. Well, that's going to be early for Mike Pringle, and I think this is just going to heat him up, and I know he looks forward to this challenge. And it plays into the situation they're looking at tonight. They're going to have to be very patient. We talked about them throwing underneath the zone, throwing in the holes of the zone, screens underneath the zone, and certainly running the football to Mike Pringle. So he's going to be toting the load tonight, James.
As for the Toronto Argonauts, you know that last week Saskatchewan fumbled the ball away several times, including right down at the goal line. Toronto capitalized almost each and every time, and an opportunity to do that and a must to do that again tonight.
They got to do it again because you got to deal with reality here. This is a completely different game. Last week they played against Henry Burrs, great young quarterback, but very inexperienced, about his 3rd start. Well, now it's Anthony Calvillo. It's his 7th year. That's a big difference. They had 4 defensive halfbacks that were rookies last week. There's not 4 defensive halfbacks that are rookies here with the Montreal Alouettes, and they had a forward lateral that was turned into 7 points. I doubt very seriously if that's going to happen tonight. Montreal is a very sound, foundationally sound football team, and I think they have a great opportunity to win one tonight in the Sky Dome, James.
We talked at length about Mike Pringle, who is obviously the #1 weapon for the Owls, but they have another key weapon behind the center at quarterback in Anthony Calvillo, who did a terrific job last week in his first game replacing Tracy Ham. What does he do best back there, Eric?
Well, I think you say he's a key weapon. I think it's important for him to be a key weapon. He's developing into their starting quarterback, and this is his football team. I think the key for him to have a big night and for him to have a big season is distribute the football. If you look at him as following his growth and evolution as a quarterback, he sees the field. He makes good decisions. They have a lot of weapons there. If Anthony Calvillo plays with confidence and makes good decisions, then this is a football team that's clearly going to have great success, James.
And they've done a great job filling in the holes. Tracy Ham leaves, Anthony Calvillo comes in. Michael Souls leaves at fullback, and a pretty good replacement for him too, Chris.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the word, the fullback. I mean, I'm a big fan of that position because he has to do so many things. He is a point of attack blocker. He is a backside seal blocker. You have to have him out on the routes, and he has to catch the passes so he doesn't become one-dimensional. I think Bruno Heppel, in the long terms of this team, is an absolutely key component. He doesn't have to do all the things that Michael Souls did, but he has to get on a nice little improvement run, so he is playing his best football in November, and I think he will. He's a great athlete, James.
Another terrific Canadian on that team, longtime veteran Jacques Climie, who keeps hanging around year after year because he wants a ring so bad.
That's right. I know Tracy Ham last year in the CFL would have loved to have a healthy Jacques Climie. Well, Anthony Calvillo has one, along with Tyree Davis, along with Cahoon, along with Browning. He's got a fantastic receiving corps. Having Jacques Climie back on the football field puts a coach on a football field. He's a very settling factor. He's an experienced ball player that's been in high-pressure situations. I had him as a rookie in my huddle. I loved him. I've watched him improve over the years. Jacques Climie brings a lot to the Montreal offense.
All right. Kickoff is just a few minutes away. When we return, we will get you ready. Marv Levy on hand for this one. Old CFLer, old NFLer, in to watch this one between the Argos and the Owls. It's coming up. Beautiful night for football in Southern Ontario. We've got a good one. The Alouettes and the Argos on a special Tuesday edition of the CFL on TSN. Hey, folks, thanks a lot for joining us. James Duffy, along with my triumvirate of analysts, Eric Tillman, Matt Dunnigan, and Chris Schultz. And indeed, we do have a good one, a showdown for first place. It is early in the season, but anytime you're in first place is a good thing, even if it's only 2 weeks in. For more on this game, let's send you right out to Skydome and the men who will call it, John Wells and Glenn Suter.
James, despite the win over Saskatchewan last week, the Argonauts' defense still needs a little work, and there will be a test tonight. Anthony Cavillo was outstanding in the Alouettes win over Winnipeg, 379 yards, Glenn, and a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I think in the last 2 years under Tracy Ham in Montreal, Anthony Cavillo has really learned how to lead this football team. Early on versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, he took a big hit and was knocked out of the game for a series, but he kept his poise. He came back and put on some big numbers and a great show for the fans in Montreal. 379 yards, couple of touchdowns. He was perfect. He led that team. This is his team now, and Anthony Cavillo made the Winnipeg Blue Bombers pay last week. He's going to be all over that young secondary here with the Argos tonight.
That's one test for the Argos tonight. Another will come in the new Argonaut double tight end formation. This is a throwback to the 70s in the CFL, and I guess the question really is, will it work and how long will it work?
And this is why they do it. The double tight end formation is very simple. On one side you have Haley, and then Richard Clark is the tight end to the opposite side of the field. The reason you do it is because defensive ends in the CFL are smaller specialty guys. You can load up on them and help your tackle with double teams if you have a tight end. Also, the linebackers in Canadian football on the outside are generally smaller defensive back-sized players. If you can get a big tight end blocking a little linebacker in that backfield, you got a chance for a mismatch in the running game, and that's why John Heward likes the double tight.
We'll watch this with some interest tonight. Is the first of 2 meetings between the Argonauts and the Alouettes. The Argos will find out just how good they are at this one tonight.
All right, time for your starting QBs, brought to you by Robin's Donuts. Still rocking after all these years. Anthony Cavillo, as talked about, an impressive first start in his regime last week. Almost 400 yards passing, and Jimmy Kemp gets the start again for the Argos, although, as said, just told recently about it, and he was not spectacular, but definitely effective last week in the Argos win over Regina. It's a bizarre thing they're doing in Toronto with this not letting the quarterbacks know until the very last second. You were never in that position. You always knew you were starting, but how must that feel? It's a little odd.
Well, I didn't know. So what I had to do, James, was I had to go to Jimmy Kemp and Jay Barker and sit them down and ask them, you know, how are you dealing with this situation? And I had a good long talk with them, a very private conversation. And these two guys are so good-hearted, you know, they couldn't really say anything but positive things about it. And I don't know if I could be that good about the situation myself. But Jimmy and Jay said, hey, look, we're looking at it this way. He says, by not declaring a starter, we have to communicate more to one another. And usually when you do have a starter and a backup, the starter kind of has his space, and you don't want to invade that territory because you don't want to mess up his psyche for the game. But in this situation, when the two players don't know who's starting, they're communicating up until game time, sharing information, and I think it's relaxing them more. At least that's the approach they're taking in Argo land right now, and so far it's worked for them.
And speaking of different approaches, Matt, they've taken a little different approach in terms of the roster, and it's really going to be interesting to watch tonight. Once again, they're dressing 5 running backs and 7 receivers, 2 of those tight ends. By dressing 12 guys at those 2 positions, that only leaves them 16 guys on defense. In all my years in the league, I've never seen a team dressed with that few guys on the defensive side of the ball. Last week against Saskatchewan, they played outstanding defense, but they had no injuries. If guys go down early this week, particularly in the front seven, they have no rotation. It's no way to keep guys fresh. And I think it'll be a real factor late in the game, James.
Well, you know what? To me, the determining factor of this game is really how well the Toronto Argonauts can use the formations and use the two tight ends to their advantage. And to me, this is a completely different story. Now we're going against Rod Rust, who's very intensely aware of how to go against a tight end system, a formation system. Now Montreal has a complete game film on what Toronto does. Plus, they have a previous exhibition game of experience. I think Montreal is going to be effective in shutting down Toronto. You know, this is not just a game to win, but also in this game, whoever wins really does have a mental edge going into the next game. If there's one thing Montreal wants to do defensively is they want to shut this down, because if they do that and they get this win, they'll carry that on right into next week, and who knows, they may even win that game too, James.
All right, the Alouettes and the Argos, it is our first Tuesday night game of the year, week 2, and the first home game for the Toronto Argonauts under the Huard era. They are ready as they charge out onto the turf at Skydome. Kickoff coming up. A couple of 1-0 teams in an early battle for first place in the East, and last year these same two teams had the home opener for the Argos at Skydome. Argos almost pulled off the upset until a late interception, and the Owls won a close game. They get another shot tonight, the Argos do. To call it, John Wells and Glenn Suter.
And we're ready for Dome Opener 2000 in Toronto. The Argos won in Regina in week 1. It will be a lot more difficult to make it 2 in a row against the highly rated Alouettes here tonight.
Good decision to open the roof here at Skydome, because this game features the best running back in the Canadian Football League against a team and a coach that love to run the football. We're going to see some smash mouth. It might have blown the roof off anyway.
I'm ready for that. Tonight's conditions are brought to you by the Weather Network. The lid is open. It's 21 with a wind from the north at 15K. A perfect night for it.
Charlie Tapp, in his first year as a head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, led the team to 12-6, and for that was rewarded as the CFL Coach of the Year last season.
And first-year Argo coach John Huard has made headlines for his brash style and his red jacket instead of Argo blue. But as he lines up his troops tonight, he is the only unbeaten head coach in the history of Canadian football. He's 1-0.
Very good point.
Baker kicks it off. Jenkins takes it for the Argonauts inside the 15. Nice return for Michael Jenkins. He's out to the 35. 21 on the return. The Argos will start Jim Kemp at quarterback for game 2. It's his second start in 6 days. The double tight end formation includes James Haley and Richard Clark. Mike Clemens is back, and so is wide receiver Darryl Mitchell. Up front, only Jude St. John and Chad Folk were regulars with the Argos in 1999. Kemp found out he was going to be number 1 and start this game tonight about an hour and a half ago by my clock.
Well, they waited till the last minute. John Huard decided to, just in the warm-up, to tell the two quarterbacks who would be the starter. Kemp started last week. He gets the start again here tonight. Now, John Huard will pull him if he turns the ball over, and that's what he did in Saskatchewan. 1 interception after a great start for Jimmy Kemp and got pulled. Jay Barker went in after that, and we may see Jay Barker in the press conference. John Huard even talked about Greg Hill coming in the football game here this evening.
You don't think that's a long shot? The number 3 guy with no CFL experience starting or getting into the game with 2 veteran quarterbacks like Huard's got?
You know, the way he talked about it yesterday, I don't think he would hesitate. And the reason I say that is because he's been very straight up front with his quarterbacks. He said, here's the deal. If you have success and you're hot, you're staying in.
Here's the deal. If he falters, he is gone.
That's
over
right.
to the sidelines to hold the clipboard for a while at least.
No question. So we'll see how that evolves here tonight. But right now, Jimmy Kemp is the guy who is in there to lead this team. Defensively for the Montreal Alouettes, Sylvester Miller is the newcomer off the defensive end. The speed rush guy will rotate with Tito Hanna. Kelly Wilshire, we'll watch him tonight. He was a Toronto Argonaut last year, signed as a free agent with Montreal. In the secondary, the newcomer, Alfonso Roundtree, and we'll see if they go after him early in this football game.
Alouettes have the market cornered on Alfonsos. They have Roundtree on defense, and they have Alfonso Browning on offense as a slot back. Charlie Tapp is a personable head coach who's entering his 3rd season with the Montreal Alouettes as the head guy, and has had his heart broken a time or two on the sidelines in Eastern Finals, losing when Dave Ritchie coached the Alouettes a couple of years ago, and then last year as well.
The delay right now is we have an injured player on the field, and we'll figure out who it is and what exactly happened when we come back.
Looks like it might be the newcomer Myron Newsom. We'll be back to Skydome after this.
CFL football on TSN is brought to you by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian.
The delay in getting proceedings underway at Skydome tonight was an injury on the opening kickoff. Myron Newsom, a newcomer who's listed as the starting middle linebacker, was hurt on kick coverage on the opening sequence, and he's still in some pain on the bench.
He's coming down on the cover team right in here into a double team, and when he does, he folds down. Doesn't come up from that. He's on the bench, has to stay out at least 3 plays. He's that middle linebacker.
Argos begin at their own 36, 1st and 10. Nice hole opens up for Pinball Clemens. He has 8 yards.
Certainly not the way the Montreal Alouettes wanted to start the game with their middle linebacker sitting on the bench. Myron Newsom was going to be key for this defense, and they're going to hope to get him back as soon as they can, simply because with the Argos offense, they run the double tight end. They love to pound it up there. We've talked about that. That's the middle linebacker, the key to stopping the run. Sitting on the bench right now.
Sheldon Benoit, number 51, is listed as the backup. This is 2nd and 2 for the Argos. The pinball again. Stopped initially, but he should have enough for the 1st down. Alfonso Roundtree, number 37, up to make the tackle after a 4-yard gain.
Sheldon Benoit has been forced to play that middle linebacker spot for Myron Newsom, who's on the bench. We talked about that. Sheldon Benoit in his 5th year, Canadian Football League. He's forced into action early.
Argos with 2 receivers spread to the far side of the field, and 2 to the near side, just 1 back in. Kemp over the middle on target right at midfield, short of the 1st down at the 55. The gain is 7 yards, so Kemp is on the money. The tight end Richard Clark has his first catch in the CFL.
Last week, with the 2 tight ends or 1 tight end that the Argos ran throughout that entire game against Saskatchewan Roughriders, they really didn't throw the ball to the tight ends very often in the passing game. In fact, James Haley had just 1 catch in that game, and Richard Clark did not have one. But Heward said he wants to get it more involved in the passing game with those tight ends.
2nd and 3. There was early motion from the Argos side, I do believe.
You know, talking about
procedure, Toronto, number 68, down repeated.
It's Steve Salter, who moved a little too quickly.
Well, that's where it puts your offense in a hole, and when you run tight end offense, you want success on 1st down for sure.
Yeah, 2nd and long is not really the ideal situation for a tight end offense, and they have both tight ends in on this opening sequence. Richard Clark, 89, James Haley, 86. From the shotgun, Kemp wide open, and he's got one of the tight ends. That's Richard Clark, wide open right up the seam, and Clark is down inside the 25-yard line for a 35-yard gain.
A little inexperience in the middle linebacker spot in Sheldon Benoit. We've talked about how he has to come into the game. Watch him right here, not get to his drop, and the seam pattern is wide open. The linebacker's got to flow to the tight end. See, he went the opposite way, was not in that same drop where he should have been, right in the middle of the field, and Richard Clark made him pay.
A 35-yard gain. Clark talking to receivers coach Jeff Fairholm, and straight up the middle for a couple is all that Darren Joseph can get.
Montreal Alouettes likely forced to play a little zone defense because of the injury to Myron Newsom.
He is apparently due back on the field shortly. Newsom, a stinger is what he has. He was down on the field for quite some time. 2nd and a bunch for the Argos. 2nd and 8. Kemp take one way, look to the end zone and overthrew his intended target. Closest receiver was Tyrone Brown.
Well, that was a tough one for Tyrone Brown to come up with, simply because he was running against two of the best in the game, and Baron Miles and Irv Smith over there on a little bit of a double team. You play that zone and you only have one receiver to run against. You got Baron Miles and Irv Smith. It's going to be pretty tough to get open. Miles, big year last year with 5 interceptions. 3 of them went for touchdowns.
Argonauts' new field goal kicker is Jacob Marini, 2 for 2 in Saskatchewan in week 1. He's out of St. X. Marini 3 for 3 in his CFL regular season career. Interesting drive by the Argonauts. They moved it from their 36-yard line on the opening kickoff and come up with 3 on the opening drive.
Well, you got to give him credit for sure, because John Hewitt talked about it in the press conference. He said that we're going to get the tight ends involved in the passing game, and he's done that. 2 quick passes to Richard Clark, 1 for a big gain, and they got their 3 points on the board.
And that's how the Argos had success last week in Regina. Drove the field, got a field goal on the first drive, and that's always a great way to start the game.
You know, coaches love to say that in press conferences too. They'll go in there and say, you know, all we're going to do is run the ball. We're going to run, and then quietly they'll say to a few, you know, we might get those guys involved a couple times in the passing game, and they try and keep everybody guessing. More importantly, they try and keep the opposite team guessing. You think it's double tight, you think run.
Well, it is a throwback to earlier days in this league. We talked about it being prevalent in the 70s when there were some true tight ends around the league. Now, I always thought that Ray Elgard, in spite of the fact that he lined up as a slot back behind the line of scrimmage, was a tight end body. I mean, this guy played like a tight end at some time.
No question about it. Elgard loved to have played tight end, except for the blocking part.
Yeah. Marini's kickoff coming down near the 30. Mercury Hayes out to about the 42. 12 on the return after a 45-yard kickoff. Al's quarterback Anthony Calvillo passed for 379 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Superb display last week. He has Mike Pringle, best running back in the league, and a capable receiving corps with Davis, Climby, Browning, and Cahoon. Up front, 4 new starters. Only Pierre Verchevel was a regular on the Alouettes offensive line 1 year ago.
Yeah, and Brian Chu has had to move over to center with the injury to Sutherland, so some changes up front. They played pretty well last week versus Saskatchewan.
Chu has moved from right guard to center and played well. Cavillo under some heat. Got it away and actually threw it away.
Defensively for the Toronto Argonauts, anchored up front by Johnny Scott, who was over in a trade with the BC Lions for a first-round draft pick. Kelvin Tiggle signed with the club as a free agent. He anchors the middle, of course, led the league in tackles a year ago. And in the secondary, inexperience is the word you'd have to use. A few newcomers back there, 3 in total.
Johnny Scott has been a solid defender for the BC Lions. When we talked to the Lions last week, maybe it's because they traded him away. It didn't sound like they were going to miss him all that much.
Well, Johnny Scott had a good year last year, personally. Greg Mons felt that he didn't fit into the team things that they were trying to do, and that's why they traded him.
2nd and 10. Cavillo hit as he fires for Browning, and he couldn't hang on.
The ball took too long to get there.
He was forced to throw it, and I thought he might have been jostled a little bit as he got it away. No, but it floated.
Yeah, but Alfonso Browning was over there waiting for it for so long. He had enough time to think about what he was going to have for dinner tomorrow night, what he's going to do to get back on the plane, what time he has to go to bed. Yeah, he was just waiting for it for so long.
No, I'm just saying what time the train leaves tomorrow, because the Alouettes take the train.
All right.
Which would be fun. We should do that one of these days. Hop on the train. 3rd down, and it's blocked. Trying to pick it up is Brooks. Coming through with a block, Donovan Carter. Huge turnover by the Argos.
The Toronto Argonauts' first-round draft pick comes up with a huge play on the special teams. Donovan Carter was untouched when he came through there, blocks it. The newcomer Richard Brooks picks up the ball. Argos have it.
Argos are in super shape with a 3-0 lead.
combination of things allows this block to happen. First of all, Wayne Blair takes up a block, and then Donovan Carter comes straight through. First round draft pick. Watch number 44 take up the block that was supposed to get to Carter. When he does that, Carter's free, untouched, blocks the punt by Terry Baker, and Richard Brooks gives the Argos great field position.
Once he finally gets hold of the ball. Biggest play of the ball game so far. The Argos are in super shape. First down inside the Alouette 25. Toronto already leading 3-0. Nowhere for pinball to go. Wrapped up in a hurry by Stephon Reed, number 47.
Stephon Reed wanted me to do something right off the bat. He wanted me to tell everybody that he is from Kamloops. The media guide and everywhere you see is from Merritt, it says.
But it is Kamloops, British Columbia.
It's Kamloops, British Columbia. And the reason he wanted me to tell him is because every time someone said Merritt, his mother would call. So Patricia, he's from Kamloops.
We know that now.
We know that.
But it was in the media guide incorrectly, right?
That's right.
2nd and 11 for the Argos. Kemp goes to the end zone. No dice. Clemens was the target. Kemp overthrew him. It's a couple of times he's overthrown receivers in the end zone.
He had to make a quick decision. Lester Smith, the safety on the play, went to Daryl Mitchell's side automatically, and as soon as Kemp saw that, he went the opposite way. You always try to throw away from the free safety. So when he saw Lester Smith go over to help out on Daryl Mitchell, who had the big game last week, you're going to see the safety go this way. Watch as they drop back. Here goes the safety. See him go over to help Daryl Smith. As soon as he does that, Jimmy Kemp goes the opposite way. He just doesn't hook up with pinball.
Jacob Marini has already connected for one. Make that 2 field goals and a 6-0 Argonaut lead. 2 for 2. Marini, he's 4 for 4 in 2000. The Argos are on top of Montreal. It's Looney night at Skydome tonight, so we brought David Amber along. David?
Yeah, thank you, John. That's a great introduction. All I can say is that Sherwood Schwartz, the new Argo owner, promised more bang for the buck for the Argo fan who comes out to the game. They're expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 20,000 fans here at Skydome tonight, and one lucky fan will win close to $20,000 if that's the case. $1 will be won for every fan here. It'll be drawn in the 4th quarter, and we will obviously talk to that lucky fan when they win their stack of lucky loonies. All right, John.
It's one way, Glenn, to assure an accurate head count. You're not going to pad the house if it's going to cost you money.
That's correct. No question about it. There's a lot of loonies in this game, so it's a great one.
Winston October fell down, got up, and there was a flag down back at the Argos line of scrimmage, so we'll have to figure out what the infraction was. Cavillo did not have a good beginning on his first sequence. Took a little heat from the Argo defense.
Well, you know, Calvillo will go right back to their offensive game plan, which doesn't change from week to week or year to year. As long as number 27 is in the backfield, Anthony Calvillo is going to use him. I'm talking about Mike Pringle.
He was good on 70% of his passes last week. That's an awesome display.
Offside, number 9, Toronto, will re-kick.
That's what you call a delayed penalty. They called it, let both teams come out with their offense and defense, and then say, wait a minute.
Yeah,
there was a
you have an
penalty
option here.
Yeah, there's a penalty on the play before. So collectively, 24 guys made the decision. They'll do it again.
Wayne Shaw wears number 9 for the Argos. One of several rookies on defense. So Jacob Marini will get an opportunity to do it one more time from a little deeper in Argonaut territory. Without a decent run, the Alouettes might as well take the option, and
well, absolutely.
October can do a little more with it.
Absolutely. You get the yardage before they even kick it off, so sure, to make them kick again. Plus the cover team just ran down the field, and that means that Winston October has a chance to maybe catch them when they're breathing hard.
He didn't play last week and actually draws in with Thomas Haskins injured in that Blue Bomber game in Montreal, so October gives them a little more speed on special teams. It was something they were lacking a little bit last week. This is Mercury Hayes this time. Hayes with a good turn. The Argos string him out, but he turns the corner again anyway. Has speed up the far side and stepped out near midfield. Nice 31-yard return for Mercury Hayes. Lots of action ahead this week on TSN. Thursday, we're at the stadium at BC Place for Rough Riders and the Lions.
BC Lions with a big comeback in week 1 versus Hamilton. The first chance to see overtime in the CFL under the new rules, and the Lions won that overtime. They get the 2 points.
Lions love the overtime. The Ticats, who settled for 1 point, hate it.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
It is.
If you win, you love it.
First down for the Alouettes. Second possession. There are flags down, and obviously so. Pringle got his hands on the ball momentarily there, but it had already been whistled down.
Well, how many times tonight will we watch Mike Pringle and Calvin Tiggle go at it? This is going to be a matchup that I want to watch.
Is that the key matchup of this game tonight? When you look at all the possibilities out there, is that the one you want to watch?
Offside, Toronto, number 73. First down repeated.
It's just two hard-nosed football players. I mean, everyone knows what Mike Pringle can do, and last year 106 tackles from Calvin Tiggle. He lines up right in the middle of that Argo defense, so the two will be banging heads and getting to know each other even better tonight.
Third time the Argonauts have been offside. So this is 1st and 5. Alouettes right near midfield. Good time to run when you got Pringle. Then maybe you fool them and find Cahoon. He stopped short of a first down by about a yard. Ben Cahoon
had a couple of receptions last week versus the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's what he did he's done in his career, 5 touchdowns. Last year, 823 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns. Really starting to develop more into a full, well-rounded receiver, Ben Cahoon.
He picks up 4. This will be 2nd and 1. And Pringle has the first down with ease.
Back to the changes in that offensive line. Some interesting decisions for Charlie Taff as this season progresses. He's going to have to decide on a guy that has been a veteran with the team that decided to retire. I'm talking about Neil Fort, and then come back. Dwayne Morgan and Rick Cunningham had won the tackle spots. Last year, the Montreal Alouettes lost Zumo KK and Neil Fort. They had to fill those holes, and they did. And last week, in their first game of the season, Rick Cunningham and Dwayne Morgan played great. Neil Fort came back and now wants to play again, so they have decisions to make.
And we'll make those over the next couple of weeks or so. Fort is arriving in Montreal he arrived late yesterday or by the time the Alouettes get home. And they were very pleased with the way the offensive line played in the preseason.
And they've gone through a full training camp together.
But they're trying to replace a couple of guys up there. Sutherland is hurt. OKK's gone to the NFL. Cavillo on the money. Browning has the catch. Nice turn there. Browning heads to the end zone. What a great run. He's down to the 2. Alfonso Browning wide open. 47 yards.
Adrian Smith last year for the Argos played at the corner position. Now he's playing the safety position, and he gets influenced a little bit by Mike Pringle in the play action and gets way out of position to the right side of the field. And when he does, Anthony Calvillo goes down the seam to Browning. Nice little acceleration at the end of that play to pick up an extra 5-6 yards. But Calvillo with the great read. See how he looks him back, turns backside, and there is Alfonso Browning wide open. Now they just have to complete it.
First and goal to go at the Argos 2. And not that time.
Well, the key is who gets lower when you're down there. Who wants it more? And that time it's Argos 1-0, but Montreal gets another couple of cracks at it.
Pringle ran into a huge jam up and a surge out in front.
Martavius Houston was leading the way. He's not that big at 215.
But he did get 1 yard. Cavillo looks for it himself, and I don't think he's got it, although the indication is there that Cavillo has the touchdown.
Well, only just.
Not by very much.
Oh. He looked like he had a seam when he took the football, but it closed up in a hurry. And take another quick look, but it was awfully close. He's going to go down the left side of the formation. See that hole that opens up? It's there, and then Tiggle gives him a good shot, and it's awfully close.
Lost the ball, actually. It was under his body as he got to the line there.
The ball just has to break that front plane of the goal line, and the officials have a better look than we do.
First touchdown of the ball game is converted by Terry Baker, and the Alouettes have the lead. The big play, 47 yards to Alfonso Browning. Alfonso Browning set it up with a 47-yard catch. 2 plays later, the Owls were into the end zone.
Alfonso Browning is off to a great start to this season, 2000. Alfonso Browning last week had 102 yards receiving, and look at that. Tons of room for him to run down the seam with that big run to get down into Argo territory to set up the touchdown. If he keeps this pace up, he's going to be leading the league in receiving. 102 last week and a big play already in this game.
In 6 plays, they traveled 59 yards. Cavillo finished it off with a 1-yard run. But Browning made it happen. Good move in the Argos secondary to get around Adrian Smith.
Well, it's such a young secondary, and when you play zone defense, everybody has to be on the same page, or else the seam will be created.
Clemens and Brown are deep. This is Tyrone Brown, beginning for the Argonauts near the 15. Up by the first tackler downfield for Montreal, Tim Fleiser. 18 yards on the return, the kickoff 64. Argonauts have a couple of field goals. The Alouettes have the lead on the only touchdown of the opening quarter. Mike Clemens has rushed for a bunch, received for a bunch, has 83 touchdowns.
He's got 2 pages in the fact book.
Yeah.
1990 broke the record for combined yards and then broke his own record in 97.
Also had 150 combined yards last week. A little tougher to run for the Argonauts all of a sudden. Charbonneau stuffed it there.
Well, I asked John Hewart about Mike Clemens because coaches the last couple of years here in Toronto have used Clemens sparingly, trying to make sure that they keep him healthy throughout the entire season. He is getting up there in age in his 12th season in the CFL, but John Hewart said, not me. If Mike Clemens is healthy and on the football field, he's going to play all the time.
Little doubt he is the heart and the spirit of the Toronto Argonaut football team. Joseph picked up maybe a yard. We'll make it 2, 2nd and 8. For Kemp now has to step up and throw. Good catch made up near the 40. It'll be an Argonaut first down. Mike Clemens has 14 yards.
Real nice protection by that double tight end set. Look at all the guys he's got up there. Double tight end set. Maximum protection. He's got time to look there, no one there, look back, find Clemens, and just dump the ball off over top. That's one thing that John Hewart believes in this double tight end set, that he's going to give his quarterback more time to throw the football.
And Kemp did have time here. Look,
Richard Clark off the edge on Stephen Reed. He keeps him out to the outside, and Kemp had lots of time to find a receiver. Whoa, double tight.
Double tight.
I.
Yeah. 4 in the backfield. Now they spread it out a little bit. And the pitch goes to Clemens. A yard, maybe 2. Let's call it a yard.
Well, you got to give him credit for his imagination when it comes to offensive sets. You get the double tight, something that we haven't seen in the Canadian Football League for a long time. There's the tight ends there, and then you got the stack with 4 guys back here. They're going to eventually spread out a little bit, but different formations, and every time John Hewart puts in a formation, other teams have to game plan against it and spend practice time working on it.
John Hewart really had to patch together this offensive line from training camp. There were a lot of changes and shuffles being made at the last moment. How much help do the 2 tight ends give an inexperienced offensive line when you look at the number of games it has had to play alongside each other?
Well, what it does, first of all, is it really helps the tackles. John Bush and Sandy Annunziata, those are 2 guys out there that are usually on an island with the best pass rushers in the game. Talking about the Joe Mumfords of the world. They line up off the edge. Now, if your tackles are one-on-one all game, sometimes that's where you have your problems when you have the great pass rushers out there. You put a tight end beside him, now you have the opportunity to double team that great pass rusher with the tight end and the tackle, and that's where you get some help for your offensive line.
Slight delay because the clock has malfunctioned here at Skydome. We looked at the keys for John Hewart's team to have some success tonight, and they've already driven for 1 touchdown. Pound Pringle was one. He's had 1,000 yards rushing in 5 of his last 6 seasons.
Yeah, they got to try and slow him down on first down and make Calvillo throw the football on 2nd and long. I think also they have to be fearless on first down with regards to their offense. They have to attack with that tight end formation. If they get into 2nd and long and you don't have a spread offensive passing game, you can struggle. And thirdly,
tons of takeaways. They had 5 against Saskatchewan last week, and currently are number 2 in the CFL in week 1, albeit. But when you lead in the takeaway giveaway category, you usually win a few football games. And Heward's team is hanging with the Calgary Stampeders with a +4.
That's the first thing he said in the press conference yesterday. He said the team that goes for the Grey Cup will be the team that wins the takeaway giveaway category.
2nd and 9 for the Argos. The clock is running. Here's Kemp, got a little heat. Look for Clemens. And Clemens was covered by Baron Miles.
The fans want a penalty, but I thought Baron Miles played it perfectly, and it was a good no call. Kemp had lots of time on that dump pass to Clemens. This time he's got to go deep, and he gets a little pressure off the edge by Kelly Wilshire. Montreal deciding to go with a little bit more pressure, and whether or not there was a penalty, well, you can make your own decision. There he is. Pinball gives Baron Miles a little bit of a push in the back. Miles just trying to play the football, and that was thrown way outside anyway.
Miles was the one who ended up on his backside.
That's right.
Noel Prefontaine has a nice average. Winston October waits. Low kick spiraling down to the 20. October spins, and all he's got is about the 29. Michael Jenkins leading the Argonaut tacklers. The return is 8. The punt traveled 42. Keys for the Alouettes. We thought they'd have to somehow mute Mitchell.
Well, that's the other dimension of the tight ends. Tight ends, you think about running, but then you get your receiver like Mitchell one-on-one on the outside, and that's what they tried to do and did successfully last week. They got to mute Mitchell if they want to have success. Also, they have to force the quarterback rotation. And what we say there is John Heward will rotate the quarterbacks with a bad play, and they have to go deep on this young secondary.
Alouettes first down. Beginning this drive at the Montreal 30. Calvillo looks over the middle. He's got his target, and Jock Climby is gone home, cooled out. Touchdown, Alouettes.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going back to the keys that we just put up there.
Did you say go deep?
I'm going to tick off number 3. Go deep on the young secondary. We saw Alfonso Browning early in the game go down to the 1-yard line, and this time it's Jock Climby's turn just to outrun the coverage. And this is something Calvillo sees on the line and audibles. We talk about his leadership ability this year. Well, that proved it right there. He saw something on the line, a one-on-one situation with Jock Climby on Adrian Smith. Climby gets in behind and does his part with the catch and then takes it on in.
80 yards for the touchdown. Jock Climby is into the end zone, and the Alouettes have a couple of TDs on the board, both converted by Terry Baker. Jock Climby has caught a few during his CFL career. The Alouettes have a 14-6 lead. Anthony Calvillo, 3 completions for 130 yards.
Well, he had a running play called that looked like audible, drop back into shotgun, little half roll to the left, and then throw it back to Jock Climby. These aren't bad numbers. So key number 3 has come through already.
So we get lucky, we're going to highlight it here, right?
Well, yeah, you gotta
go deep.
Tick it off. Number 3, there it is.
New starters in the secondary.
Done. Ticked off.
Now Adrian Smith has moved over from the corner to play safety. This is his 2nd start at safety, and Jock Climby found a little hole between the safety and the halfback. I shouldn't say a little hole. It went for 80 yards. Tyrone Brown for the Argonauts. Slowed by the first man upfield. That's Stephen Reed, number 47. An 11-yard return after a 60-yard punt. Kemp remains at quarterback. He played 3/4 of the game against Saskatchewan last week at Taylor Field. 3 of 6 for 56. So he's hitting on 50%, got a little more pressure on the last sequence. Argonauts begin a little deeper this time, near the 25. Jenkins, the running back that time, number 27. He averaged 6.4 yards a carry last week at Taylor Field. 23 carries in all, almost 150 yards.
Opened up some eyes in his first games. Argos against Saskatchewan, 148 yards, and something we were looking forward to watching here tonight. Mike Pringle, the best in the league right now, against a guy who is trying to emulate him a little bit. Same number and all.
Same number. A couple of 27s in the opposing backfields here. Shotgun for Kemp. Brown was the target, and he missed him. Coverage on Brown, covered by Davis Sanchez.
This is where you start to wonder. Jimmy Kemp hasn't had a couple of drives now, and how long will John Heward go before Jay Barker starts warming up and Kemp goes to the sideline? If you're hot, you're in. If you're not, you're out.
Well, and Kemp started well. An initial drive netted 3 points. I mean, they obviously would have rather had the touchdown, but the Argos looked good on the opening drive. Jeff Fairholm, the only returning member of the Argonaut coaching staff, was standing next to Heward there. Prefontaine, good one this time. Markers are down in the area of the catch by Winston October, who turns out to have a good run that time. 28 on the return after 42 on the punt.
Winston October is put in the lineup for that reason, to help on special teams. He's replacing Thomas Haskins. The returners last week were running east and west. Winston October, throughout his career, has always hit it straight up the field when he gets a return. That's the style he likes to run and the style that Charlie Taft likes to watch.
Too many men. Montreal, Toronto first down.
Saw the flag drop before the play.
Well, that's a big, big penalty. You can tell by the reaction from head coach Charlie Taft, because it gives the Argos back the football. You never want to do that. I mean, losing yardage is bad enough. When you lose a possession, it's a crucial mistake. And guess what? John Heward's pulled the trigger on the quarterback rotation already. Jay Barker's on his way on the field.
Barker played for about a quarter last week against Saskatchewan. He was good on 3 of 5 for 45 yards, 1 interception. And in many ways, these two guys are quite interchangeable with their experience in the CFL. Kemp has started the first 2 games. Barker has seen some action. We'll see how long he's in. Nice play action fake on the money far side. It'll be an Argonaut first down. Barker 1 for 1 as he hooks up with Andre Kerwin on the final play of the opening quarter. Montreal on top of the Argonauts, 14-6. Toronto heading into scoring position as the second quarter begins.
The CFL live on TSN at the quarter.
Welcome back to CFL Control. Maybe the key possession in that half was right after the block punt, when instead of going up 10-0, the Argos go 2 and out, field goal, it's only 6-0, and from there the Alouettes completely take over the game. How did they do it on offense?
Well, again, they didn't panic, James, much like Hamilton. BC didn't panic against Hamilton. What we're seeing here is Montreal simply ran the football, screened, and what they did was they draw the defense up, they draw that zone up, and then they went to play action pass. And what they did was a simple play fake, used Mike Pringle as the decoy here. He moves Adrian Smith with his eyes. Anthony Calvillo, showing his 7th-year experience, goes over the top of the zone, and then Browning does the rest and gets him into scoring territory. Big momentum changer there, simply taking what they give you at first, bring the defense up, James, and then simply going over the top of the defense.
Terrific running back, even better decoy, Mike Pringle, when you do that. Now, that was the good side of the Alouettes. On the bad side, the special teams problems again, second straight week.
Unbelievable. In 5 quarters now, they've given up 2 block kicks. You know, they had an assignment error. They gave an inside guy a free release, and that's a big play. Then at the end of the half, They had too many men on the field. For them to win the championship in the East, they better get their special teams in order.
I'll tell you one thing. I think the Toronto Argonauts are asking a heck of a lot from Adrian Smith. This is a kid who's a cornerback that didn't play safety at all in the preseason. Two totally different positions. When you're a cornerback, it's man-on-man. When you're safety, it's visual keys. And if you overreact or underreact, that's how the quarterback finds those seams. A tough, tough situation for Adrian Smith.
127 yards on 2 completions for Anthony Calvillo. Those are Dunnigan numbers. We'll see how Jay Barker does in for the Argos as the QB shuffle continues for them.
Well, Jay Barker got off to a good start. Here's his first play on the play action. Watch this. Watch how he sells it. Hides the ball in his hip, takes a slow step, and then turns around and delivers a strike. Didn't have much chance to warm up. Came in, threw a nice pass. Watch how him sell it. He hides it in his hip, sells the defense that he doesn't have the football, and then, hey, look at this. I'm throwing down the field with it.
Set up by a great fake for Jay Barker. Second quarter begins with the Argonauts on offense. Barker play action fake again. No one's fooled this time. He's wrapped up in a hurry and tossed to the turf by Swift Birch. After 1 quarter, the passing yards favor the Alouettes by a bunch. Just 17 rushing yards for the Argonauts, and the Argos held the advantage in a time of possession, but 2 big plays, Glenn, including the 80-yard TD catch by Glavine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what surprises me a little bit, too, when I look at that is rushing. 4 yards for the Alouettes. That's 4 yards with Mike Pringle.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's very surprising for Alouette football. But you mentioned the 2 big plays, and when you hit them that quickly to Alfonso Browning and Jock Climbing, you got a chance.
An injury being tended to by the Argonaut medical staff. That's Steven Soller. We'll check him out when we return. Rodsky and Dutch will have the whole story of this and everything else in sports on Sports Desk coming up 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. This game, of course.
Yeah, Michael Irvin retiring.
And Major League All-Star game.
Well, Steve Salter heads to the bench, and they'll check him out over on the sideline. Looked like he was looking at his arm.
4th-year Argo, a backup last year. Finally got a starting job, and right now he'll watch from the sidelines for a bit. 2nd down and a whole bunch for Barker after he was wrapped up. Barker takes off, took a hit, and he's hammered at the 52-yard line by Sheldon Benoit. Benoit drawing into the game with the injury on the opening play to Myron Newsom.
Well, he's going to see the big hole to run in. He just has a lot of yardage to pick up. There, you see the lane that he creates right there. Now, the lane is created because Swift Birch goes really wide. Jay Barker, not known for his tremendous speed. He's a bit of a scrambler, but good hit at the end of the play by Sheldon Benoit. That'll rattle your chain a little bit.
3rd down punting situation. October is back for the Alouettes near his 10-yard line.
You can bet they have 12 on the field this time, not 13.
Good kick by Prefontaine. Chasing Winston October back into the end zone. Tries to pick his way through and finds a little room out to the 6. Wayne Blair, rookie out of Toronto and Tulane.
Sorry, John, I'm not so sure that was the best decision for Winston October to make when he had the ball down in his end zone, pretty much hemmed in. He's given his offense very poor field position. At this point at 14-6, you give up a single here at 14-7, you still have a converted touchdown lead. He's about 4 yards in the end zone, but there's going to be blockers show up in a hurry here. I'm not so sure he should have just held back, given up the single, and got a whole bunch more field position than he ended up with.
I think he thought about it, but decided there was a little room, so the Alouettes begin at the 6, 1st down.
You know how receivers always think they're open? Well, returners always think they can break it.
Here's Pringle trying to break one for the first time tonight. And this is a nice little run. Has about 9.
Well, this is what we're used to seeing. I mean, 4 yards in the first quarter from Mike Pringle? I don't think so. You got to get him involved, especially when you're backed up, the shadow of your own goalpost. You got to get that running game going and give yourself some breathing room. Anthony Calvillo wants a chance to be able to drop back. That's some pretty impressive yards in his career. Very close to 2nd place all time in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, he should pass it this year. In fact, maybe next week.
Well, you know, it's a little bit too much to think about it for this game. At 234 yards, he needs to catch Johnny Bright for 2nd. 234 yards, you would say, you know, forget it in one game. But this is Mike Pringle.
Yeah, and he's rushed for over 100.
As a matter of fact,
and over 200.
Last year, right here in Sky Dome in October, he rushed for 234.
Yeah, I know. And he needed 236 coming into this.
So it could happen.
Yeah, a little bit of a slow start for Pringle, but we've got a long way to go. 12:17 to go to halftime. Near side, Cahoon makes another catch and fights off one tackler before he's dragged down near the 20-yard line. Gain is 3. Anthony Cavillo came into this league with terrific fanfare. If you remember back to those days in Vegas, I mean, this guy had a cannon for an arm.
Yeah.
He was 20 years old and really had a whole bunch of skill on display.
Well, they called it the fast break offense when he was in Las Vegas. I was actually still playing then, and it was like a track meet with those receivers. Tamarick Vanover was one of them.
Yes, sir. He stalled a little bit, spent some time in Hamilton, then apprenticed under Tracy Ham, and look what he's up to tonight. Far side for Ben Cahoon.
Ben Cahoon is becoming a go-to guy in this game tonight. Wasn't last week, just had a couple of catches. Alfonso Browning was the guy, as well as Tyree Davis. But tonight, based on the defense that Anthony Calvillo is seeing, Ben Cahoon is the guy. And that's just a smart play. That's using your head. You see, he didn't really run hard. He just saw that the coverage dropped off deep, and he was just going to turn around and create a target.
Gain is 13. Alouettes are first down out near the 33 now. Pringle on a slight delay. Roger Dumbrack had him wrapped up from behind, and there were Argonauts in front as well.
Well, you got to give some credit with that Pringle number. We talked about him not having a big first half. Well, give some credit to the D-line for the Toronto Argonauts. Roger Dumbrack, a couple of sacks last week and a very good start.
Out of Western, Roger Dumbrack is a first-year starter. Had a couple of sacks last week against Saskatchewan.
And of course, Johnny Scott makes them a lot tougher in the middle of that defensive line.
Cavillo on 2nd and 7 has some trouble now. A chance to escape. Puts his head down. He'll have the first down. Took a solid hit over there.
Johnny Scott flushed him out of the pocket. Johnny Scott's pressure up the middle was the reason that Calvillo had to take that hit at the end of the play.
It was Jason Jenkins applying the hit on Calvillo.
Watch Scott on the stunt. See, he just bowls his way back there. That flushes Calvillo out of there, and once he gets in the open field, now everybody on defense wants to take a shot at him, especially defensive backs. So you have to try and cover his receivers, and he's thrown a couple deep already tonight, so when you get your chance, you want to hit him in the open field.
There's a number. Average gain on first down, 18.4 for the Alouettes.
Wow.
But the big plays we talked about, one to Climby, one to Browning. Another completion. This is Jock Climby.
Man, there's some hitting going on right now. Glenn Young just smacked Jock Climby. I mean, there's some big-time hitting going on. Listen to this hit. Whoa, baby.
Yeah, Climby gets up.
He got up, didn't he?
Yeah, he gets up in a hurry. Is that all you've got?
He's still adjusting his equipment, though.
Second, less than a yard to go. The Alouettes convert for another first down.
Very good drive by Anthony Cavillo. He's backed up in his own goal area. He's driven the ball out of there, used Pringle a little bit, used the short passing game, Ben Cahoon and Jock Climby. This is a very methodical drive for the coaching staff, the Alouettes.
Cavillo looks over for a little inspiration, perhaps. Well, he's doing a nice job out there on this drive and a couple of earlier ones. This began back at the 6-yard line. And it continues here. Cahoon away from 1. He's got better than 5. Back at the 6-yard line when we suggested that Winston October should have given up the point.
Good decision now.
And you know, when you look at that, Glenn, in many circumstances, that is a pretty good idea. Give up the point at this stage of a ball game when you're comfortably in front. But then you've got Mike Pringle in the backfield, and Pringle just hauled him out to about the 15-yard line and opened things up a little bit.
Yeah, it worked out for him. I still think he should have given up the single.
Well, if they score a touchdown, you'd be absolutely wrong.
Very good point.
Mercury Hayes in motion near side. Cavillo swings it out. It's Pringle. He'll have a first down. And still on his feet, Mike Pringle, always a great speedster. He could take this a long way. Pringle is finally wrestled down by Adrian Smith inside the 15. But what a great run by Pringle after the catch to pick up 35 yards.
We always talk about Pringle being a power runner, and power runners can create some intimidation down the field. When Pringle finally gets this football, it doesn't really look like anyone wants to tackle him. Look, they all put the brakes on and then kind of shuffle.
Yeah, Houston had a shot at him, number 25, and they leave it up to Adrian Smith to run him down.
There were brakes going all over across that secondary. No one wanted to hit him, and that's what power running does for you.
8th first down for the Alouettes. They're set up inside the Toronto 15. Bruno Heppel for 5. Heppel, I guess they like to say. Bruno Heppel.
Bruno Heppel, yeah. He's going to be the tendency breaker, they call it. Tendency breaker is when a team is scouting you. And the teams that scout Montreal know 27's getting the ball. So every now and then, you got to give one to 33. Bruno Heppel, just to make him stay honest.
He's been the backup in Montreal to Michael Soles for the past 3 years. They think he's ready to carry part of the load, and he's blocked well for Pringle and carried for 5 there. Cavillo hammers it in, and it's intercepted. Picked off in the end zone by Byron Capers. So Cavillo put a lot on that, maybe a little bit too much. But that's huge for the Argonauts, who look like they were going to give up points on this drive for sure. The Alouettes had driven 95 yards, and Byron Capers of the Argonauts sniffed out the touchdown toss in the end zone.
Mercury Hayes right here is a receiver that's going to come in and block. Byron Capers is the guy that's supposed to cover him in the pattern. Now, if he's going to block, Byron Capers says, well, if my guy's blocking on the line of scrimmage, well, I'm just going to fold back and see if I can't help somebody else out. Anthony Calvillo doesn't see him. He expects him to be up on the line where his receiver was, throws it right into his hands.
Cahoon was the intended target. Capers has his first interception. Argos begin at the 25. Darryl Mitchell is hammered as soon as he got his hands on the ball. Let's bring in David Amber.
Well, guys, the Argos are already thin on the line, and now lineman Steven Salter has gone to the locker room with the team doctor. He was in considerable pain. He was favoring his left hand, which appeared to not be moving too much. First-year Argo Jim Cooper out of UBC will replace Salter on the line.
And it gets real thin now.
It really does.
Jim Cooper's in there, and as far as the depth chart goes, that's it. Now, they do play with tight ends.
They can maybe get a little help that way. It is Parker at the controls for the Argonauts, and he's going nowhere. It took about 3 hits before he went down. Final one from Swift Birch, an ex-Argo himself. Second sack for Swift.
Well, you got changes in your offensive line. It's going to make it off the top. You have to communicate. They all have to be on the same page. You heard it before. There's 2 positions, secondary and offensive line, that all 5 guys have to be playing together, or else Swift Birch's going to have a field day.
Hard-hitting affair, no doubt about that. Swift Birch has been one of the Alouette stars. Winston October waits for a 3rd down punt from Noel Prefontaine. High and deep, coming down near the 32. October looking for room to the near side. Needs one block to try and turn the corner. And he's out to the 50. And there are markers down. Might have been a face mask. Wayne Shaw leading the Argonaut tacklers. It is Montreal on top, 14-6. 1st and 10 Alouettes after a 19-yard return.
This is my accent. It's sporty, roomy, and easy to carry.
Elantra has all the features that make it a great fit for my family, including a lease that leaves me sitting pretty.
Sonata has air, power everything, and an engine that really moves. And a lease that's making them disappear.
You'll find amazing deals at Hyundai's Eye Opener sales event.
Hey, Granddad.
Yeah?
Man, that's cold.
Cold. You don't know cold, college boy. When I was a boy, I had to walk 20 miles to school in 3 feet of snow. Uphill. In my father's pajamas.
Tim Hortons Ice Cap. It's creamy, it's smooth, it's deep down cool.
Smart guy.
You know, in the Canadian Football League, we have 12 guys instead of 11. What do you think, an extra man out there?
Of course. They all look good in their pants.
Ooh, can I take him home? I think you can never have too many men in tight pants on a football field.
And we have unlimited motion in our backfield.
Wow.
You know?
It's a whole new realm of possibilities, huh?
And they're ready to go again in 20 seconds.
Where's this again?
That's interesting.
I may have to rest up a little. CFL, I gotta watch it. Go Canada.
You can tell the roof is open at Skydome because we can see the moon here tonight. Argonauts' next home game is Friday, July 28th against the Tiger Cats. Tickets are available by calling that number, 341-5151. And the next home game for the Alouettes happens to be against these Argonauts next Thursday night, July 20th. Major penalty on the previous play. Here's a look on the return by Winston October.
Winston October does a little taunting as he comes around the corner and points at Wayne Shaw. Shaw grabs the face mask. That's the penalty and the extra yardage for Montreal.
Look where the Alouettes are set up at the Toronto 43. Calvillo looks to the outside. He's got room to roam. Now cuts it upfield. Has about 5 yards down inside the 40. And Glenn Young over to make the tackle there. Young was used to playing the weak side linebacker position for the Argonauts when Mike O'Shea was in the middle. He's moved over to the other side.
A lot of rumors circulating this year that Glenn Young would be the next one traded out of Toronto, but it hasn't happened to this point, and the rumors have kind of quieted down over the last little while.
Young heads to the sidelines in favor of a speedier back. Here's Mike Pringle, and we'll see where they spot this. He should be close to a first down. Pringle worked his way through. Tiggle was there.
One of the concerns for the Alouettes last week for Charlie Taft was he turned the ball over in the scoring zone a couple of times, and it was a concern that they weren't capitalizing when they got into scoring territory. We saw the interception by Calvillo. They're down here again. This will always come back to haunt you if you don't put it away when you have it in scoring range.
Pringle comes up about a half a yard shy. Well, we'll call it inches. And Pringle doesn't miss those often. At that time, it was Bruno Capel. And up for the first down.
Charlie Taft likes to be involved in more than just head coaching. You think of head coaches just making those decisions on the field, and Charlie Taft likes to be involved in the offensive game plan from start to finish. He likes to dabble in the defensive game plan as well.
He is technically the offensive coordinator.
That's right.
Of this team. And he gets to be that because he's the head coach. He can do whatever he wants. Here's Pringle. There's a big hit on Mike Pringle that time. Adrian Smith on Pringle. 2:50 till halftime. The Argos scored early. The Alouettes have responded a little later. It's 14-6, Montreal.
There are differing opinions on what exactly it means to be Canadian. But the classic definition is as follows. To be Canadian, you must be clean, cold, and crisp.
Shop at Safeway. Swipe your Safeway Club card and receive a bonus entry when you purchase Cheerios and Honey Nut Chex, Kellogg's Milk Crunch Bars. Swipe and you could win $1 million or Fiesta's Dynasty 400 Barbecue, Song's Espresso Pro Plus and Bagel Cutter, a VTech 900 megahertz digital cordless telephone, Ryobi's Random Orbit Sanders Circular Saw and Hand Planer, or win a trip or two via Air Transat to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Stay at the Villa Veradero courtesy of World of Vacations. Swipe your club card at Safeway today.
time for the TSN Playbook Trivia question. In what year did receiver Darrell K. Smith set the Argo record for most touchdowns in one season? 92, 90, or 89? Stay tuned to this program for the correct answer in play.
There is a course as royal and ancient as the game itself. It can humble the best that come to play or allow for brief moments of brilliance. TSN presents the British Open. See it, live it, TSN.
We're at the Argos home opener at Skydome. It's Looney Night here. Someone is going to go home with a big prize.
Well, it's always Looney Night in CFL control, and that's where we're going into half.
Here they are. We've got them all lined up for you. There's Tillman and Dunnigan. Seated in the front row, Mr. Schultz and James Duffy.
Go ahead, Looney.
Less than 3 minutes to play in the opening half. 2nd down and 5 to go for the Alouettes. Time for Cavillo, and he'll have the first down. Browning made the catch, and he's inside the 20. He was wide open.
A lot of crossing patterns, and you get a lot of crossing patterns when the other team, the Argos, are playing zone, because what you want to do is layer it. You want to have guys underneath, you have guys over top. The underneath guy is Alfonso Browning. He's going to come up with the catch right over the middle, wide open. When he does that, picks up the first down. Look at this. This is a big, big series of plays, and final 2:25 for the Argos. 21.6 deficit would be awfully tough.
Alouettes over 200 yards offense opening half. Here's Pringle. Swings it to the outside. And he's wrapped up there by Richard Brooks. Cavillo has 205 yards passing.
Anthony Calvillo in the offseason this year really worked hard on his legs. You know, and quarterbacks will tell you that it's very important not only for them running the football, obviously, but for their throwing game. Because you use your legs and your upper body and your entire body when you throw that football. And Calvillo really worked hard. He felt that he wasn't strong enough in that area last year. He ran a lot, trained hard, and it looks like he's paying the benefits now.
2nd and 6. Calvillo eludes the early rush. Tries for the first down himself, and he can't get there.
Johnny Scott went down hard on the play, and they're waving for the training staff. He's holding his right knee. Brian Chu is over there just waving frantically to the Argo staff. It's interesting because, you know, players don't like to see players get hurt, even if it's the opposite team. And you look down, you see a guy in pain, even if it's the opponent that guy you're battling with. You sure don't like to see a guy go down.
Yeah, you can hear things out there every once in a while, too, can't you?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can hear a pop. But...
Well, no one wants to see a guy have to leave the game. And you know, I think the Alouettes were more disturbed by the Johnny Scott going down, and he looks like he's in pain right now.
And I would just guess that number 72 has a huge pain threshold the way he has played this game. Down his 7th CFL season.
Came over in that trade with the BC Lions for a first-round draft pick. Lions brought in a lot of depth in their defensive line. John Hewart felt like he needed to improve his, and he brought Johnny Scott over, and they're very happy to help him, or to have him, excuse me. 35 sacks for Scott in the last 4 years in the CFL.
Johnny Scott being tended to on the turf at Skydome. We'll take a quick timeout. We're back at Skydome, still in injury timeouts. Football this week, starring Glenn Suter and Chris Schultz. Sunday morning at 11 a.m., 8 a.m. Pacific time.
Wow, we have the second half of the interview with Jeff Garcia in that show, and it was a great sit-down with the future of the San Francisco 49ers at the quarterback position.
He is the new golden boy in San Francisco.
You're going to have to help Johnny Scott off the field. Johnny Scott right here. Now watch, follow him on the play. He's going to get pushed to the outside. Getting pushed to the outside by Scott Flory, and when he goes down, he gets hit by Brian Chu, and I think that's where he hurt himself. It looks like the knee to knee, and that's probably why Chu jumped up and waved frantically to the training staff for the Argos, because he was involved in the hit, and you see that Scott is having an awful tough time getting off the field.
He'll be tough to replace, and the Argonauts are a little bit thin up front. If you look at the backup help, Jason Jenkins, number 99, is listed as a backup to John Raposo on the end, so I don't know if they'll shuffle the deck up there a little bit, but I doubt very much if Johnny Scott will be back in this one.
Well, they are thin on both lines, offensive and defense. Now, during the preseason, they did kind of flip-flop guys. Had some offensive linemen playing on the other side and vice versa, so maybe they've created a little bit of experience there.
Here's Terry Baker, field goal try for the Alouettes. He's been perfect so far in 2000, and now he's 4 for 4.
There's a few guys been carted off this game, and this has been a very physical football game. Week 1 had some very good games in it, but this is the thing, as physical as I've seen it so far this season.
From the games we've been watching up close, this is the most physical. We saw Edmonton and Calgary. Those two teams don't like each other, but there have been some harder hits in this one, I think, at least when you look at the first half. And the way it's gone down.
Big hitting going on down there.
Calvillo has controlled things after a bit of a slow start. The Argos got a couple of early field goals. One off a blocked punt. Now it's Jay Barker. Money. Brown makes the catch. Stopped short and kept in bounds to keep the clock running here. 1:50 to go till halftime.
Well, there's still lots of time left. Jay Barker in the game. Jimmy Kemp was cold. Barker's 3 for 3 since coming in. He started off with a big play his very first series.
Can't beat perfect. Kemp is a study on the sidelines with Greg Hill, number 13, you saw there. He is the 3rd string Argonaut quarterback. Barker looks around and fired that one into the turf. The intended target was Richard Clark. Pressure from Kelly Wilshire. I thought we would have mentioned Kelly Wilshire's name a time or two more by this stage of the game.
Yeah, well, Kelly Wilshire's come on a couple of blitzes, and he's going to be a guy that'll have to go out and cover Pinball Clements occasionally out of the backfield. Of course, signed with Montreal in the offseason. From the area, speaks French. Great acquisition for the Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Argonauts will really miss his presence and his non-import status. Prefontainean now on 3rd down Toronto. Winston October back at his 25. Prefontaine had to take it down and gets a low one away. Here's Winston October. Good return. Prefontaine over to make the tackle.
What a play by Prefontaine.
Yeah,
First of all, saved the block kick. I mean, check out Prefontaine, who's a great athlete for a punter at the punting position. Watch, first of all, he recognizes that he's going to get the ball blocked, so he jumps out of the way.
Tito Hanna coming through.
Now watch this, though. He's not done. He keeps following after that play and goes and makes a tackle.
Out near the 50-yard line, 1:18 to go for the Alouettes till halftime. So Prefontaine made the tackle and got it away, or it could have been much worse for the Argonauts.
Whoa, look at that.
Late change for the Alouettes here on offense. They get Mercury Hayes in just in time. Pringle makes the catch, makes the first down, still going as he crosses the 35 and the 45 and almost down to the 40-yard line. Let's get an update from David Amber.
Well, John, Brian Chew, I had a chance to talk to him, the Montreal lineman. He showed his concern for Johnny Scott, and that's because his helmet landed right on Johnny Scott's knee. He said it didn't look good. Let's hope for the best.
At the very last second by Calvin Tiggle, and Calvillo's pass goes incomplete.
Calvin Tiggle is very experienced at the linebacking spot. We always talk about his great run stopping ability. Watch how he makes his nice drop here, reads the quarterback's eyes. He's got his eyes on the quarterback the whole time, doesn't fight on that look off, and then is right there. All he has to do now is catch it. Linebackers don't do too many ball drills in practice.
Jack Climby almost had it squirt into his hands when he was down on the turf. 2nd and 10. Calvillo with time and a first down. Alfonso Browning made the catch. He's inside the 20. He's made big plays tonight. 24 yards there.
Big plays last week, big plays tonight. Seems to be the go-to guy for Anthony Calvillo, no question about it.
Great numbers for Calvillo. He's over 200 yards, closing in on 260. Missed Pringle there. 11 of 17, 250 yards.
Well, that looks pretty good, so we'll just wrap it up here. Thanks for coming. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's just first half numbers.
God, last week he hit for 379. Wow. He looks very confident out there tonight to me. Yeah. And he won some games for Montreal last year in relief of Tracy Ham. He started some games and won them.
Hey, you know, there was people that thought that maybe he should have been starting all the time and that Tracy Ham should have been more of a coach last year, but he had a role on the team, and that was to back up a future Hall of Famer. Now his role is it's his team.
Tyree Davis made the catch. He'll be short of the first down. 37 seconds till halftime. So here comes Baker and the field goal team. Alouettes gave up a couple of early field goals to the Argonauts and have scored 17 straight points since then.
Well, John Hewitt can't be happy with his offensive production in the first half. He's lost some people up front now, too, so that makes it even tougher.
Terry Baker will have it spotted at the 21. And he's got another one. A perfect season so far, 5 for 5, 2 for 2 tonight. And 20 straight points for the Alouettes.
Well, after the first couple of drives by Jimmy Camp, this offense for the Argos has done nothing in this first half, and that's why the score is as lopsided as it is.
One early drive for the field goal, actually, and that is really about it offensively. Boys are ready at the half. We're at Skydome enjoying the action here, and I'm sure there'll be an opinion or two passed around the table back at football control. So they're about 17 seconds away on the real clock here.
Well, when Jay Barker got the drive, the last series, there was about 1 minute and 10 seconds left. I thought he's got lots of time to move into range and try and get some points and some momentum. At this point, with 13 seconds left, you just want to get out, get into the half, and regroup.
2 touchdowns would get the Argonauts even, but they really have to find a way to move the football a little more effectively early in the third quarter. Should be the last play of the opening half at Skydome. Barker keeps it on the ground, and the Argonauts rushing game really not all that effective so far tonight. Alouettes have scored most of the points recently, in fact 20 in a row, for a 20-6 lead on the Argos at the half.
The CFL live on TSN at the half.
Dominant performance by the Owls the last quarter and a half. James Duthie along with Eric Tillman, Matt Dunnigan, and Chris Schultz. And want to hit on a couple things the guys talked about before the game. Matt Dunnigan stressed how the Alouettes were going to try and pick on the Argos' zone defense, and they did just that effectively.
Yeah, they have. What they've done is they've thrown underneath, they've run some screens, they've hit Pringle, using Pringle out of the backfield, then they dumped it. They brought the linebackers up, dumped it over the top to Browning for a long one. They climbed me on a crosser, running from a zone man coverage into zone coverage into man coverage. Done a super job. The only mistake they've made is forcing the football down in the red zone, and AC learned. He dumped it down the second time down in there, got field goals, and they're doing a really nice job attacking that, James.
Eric hit on before the game the fact that the Argos dressed 7 receivers and 5 running backs, and when you do that in a limited roster in the CFL, you really hurt your depth in other positions, and it may hurt them a lot in the second half.
Well, when you only have 39 players, you have to make good decisions prior to the kickoff. And this is absolute worst-case scenario for the Toronto Argonauts. Again, with 12 players in a combination of running back and receiver positions, when you lose an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman in the first half, it really makes it ugly fast, Chris.
And they better hope and pray that Steve Salter is willing to do whatever it takes to get back on the football field, because the kid they got replacing him, Jim Cooper, 6'1", he's about 230 pounds. He's physically limited. He's not going to be able to compete with Steve Charbonneau or Ed Filion. You better take your quarterback out of the pocket, or it's going to get ugly. He can't do the job. This is bad planning, James.
Having said all that, it is only a 14-point football game, and with that Capers pickoff in the end zone and the fact they held the Owls to 2 field goals on those last 2 drives, it could have been much worse for the Toronto Argonauts. Jock Climby is a lawyer, and it was case closed on that play. Big touchdown for him. They lead 26. Log on to tsn.ca/CFL for the premier CFL website. Weekly features, including up close and sounds of the game, just a click away, plus news, stats, streaming video at your fingertips, plus weekly columns from our analysts/authors. Mr. Tillman writes this week. Mr. Schultz writes next week. That will be interesting. Bad start, but the rest was pretty darn good for the Montreal Alouettes. Our David Amber spoke with their coach, Charlie Taff.
Coach, more than 500 yards offense last week, already more than 200 yards. What's been the key to this offense?
Making plays. But AC made a couple of great checks. Saw him in a blitz alignment on Climby's big play there, and he checked to the pass. And, you know, he's doing a great job mentally. He sees things, and when you got a quarterback functioning like that, obviously it gives you a chance to make plays. But the consistency is an area I'm concerned. You know, we got to get more consistency. Our special teams, again, a block punt. We were out of a series here, and we had too many men on the field. You can't be a real good football team and make those kind of mistakes, so we got to get better there.
Coach, a 14-point lead. Good luck in the second half.
Okay, David, thanks.
There are your numbers at halftime. 254 yards passing for Anthony Calvillo. Remember, he had almost 400 last week as well. Only 32 rushing yards for the Argos. They racked up almost 300 last week, so they are struggling. And the Alouettes also turning around the time of possession, 17 minutes over 12 minutes for the Argos. Let's talk second half adjustments. Eric.
You want a novel concept? How about prayer? If another offensive lineman goes down, then Cameron Chance suddenly becomes a two-way player. But seriously, I think if they can take a page from what BC did the other night in Hamilton, if they can go down and get some points early, they're back in the game, Matt.
Well, I think Montreal just stays on course right now. They've been making plays. They need to continue to keep Toronto in that rocking horse. That means they got the defense going back. They got the defense going up. Anthony Calvillo's in a rhythm. He needs to stay in that rhythm, Chris.
And for Montreal, test the players that replace the players. I think the biggest thing is find out what that guard Cooper's like, find out what Jenkins, the replacement, is like. This is a line of scrimmage advantage for Montreal, and it'll prove out in the second half, James.
Really hasn't been that typical a game for the Alouettes offensively. Usually it's Pringle, 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 Pringle. This time Anthony Calvillo doing all sorts of damage in the air, but Mike Pringle had his touches as well, and he's not just a straight-ahead runner. Guy shows he's got the moves and the speed, and his team has a 14-point lead. Second half ahead. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to CFL Control. A couple minutes, we'll be getting you out to Toronto for second half kickoff. While we have a chance, let us get down to the bones of this thing. Do the Argos have a chance to get back in it?
Oh, I think so. Just like we saw BC against Hamilton last week. They got back in it early. They came out, got some momentum, put something on the board. I think it's imperative that Toronto do the same.
Eric?
Well, yeah, I think they do, and it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the quarterback situation. We saw Jimmy Kemp. We've seen Jay Barker. We may even see the young guy, Greg Hill. They've talked a lot about him, even though he's just been in camp 10 days, James.
Well, I think they would if Calvillo was not playing quite as well, but right now Anthony Calvillo is right on top of his game in every way, and I think he's going to lead them to another win.
26 is scored at halftime. Argos got off to a terrific start in this one, but it has been all Alouettes since midway through the first quarter. Third quarter action is coming out. Here again, John Wells and Glenn Suter.
Anthony Calvillo, a big part of the Alouette story in the opening half here at Skydome. Nice numbers. If he gets 254 more, he's going to be having a terrific season.
Oh, man,
Isn't he? 379 last week.
He's off to a great start, and, you know, the things that the guys talked about at halftime, been so nice to watch for Anthony Calvillo in this game because, you know, he goes up on the line, he's got composure, he sees what the defense is giving him, and then he audibles out of it. He made some big plays by changing the call at the line of scrimmage.
Conversely, the Argonaut quarterbacks have not been quite as efficient. Jay Barker in relief of Jimmy Kemp. Barker got on 3 of 4 for 24 yards. Kemp 3 of 7 for 56, and he didn't move the team quickly enough for John Heward and got the hook.
Well, John Heward wants a team that is physical, pounding the ball along the ground, but when you're down 20-6, plans have got to change. You got to throw the ball, you got to put it in the air, and you got to get some first downs, move the chains, and then try and score some points when you get the chaps and the opportunity to. So the plan is not going quite the way John Heward wanted it.
The offense has struggled. A couple of big plays given up by the Argonaut defense to pad Calvillo's stats. 47 yards to set up a touchdown to Alonzo Browning, and the big catch by Jock Climby.
That's another guy we haven't seen a whole lot of, Michael Jenkins, who had the big game last week and running the football 148 yards, and haven't heard much of him in this game as well. Give some credit to that defense in Montreal. That's the difference.
Well, they were expecting him, obviously. Just 2 carries for 1 yard after the big week in Saskatchewan at Taylor Field. Short kickoff coming down at the 35. Sheldon Benoit does not get a chance to return too many kickoffs. Was pretty excited about the opportunity there.
He didn't think he was going to get a chance to play much on defense either, but did when Myron Newsom went down. So Sheldon Benoit is getting a chance to play.
Mike Pringle halfway to 100 plus 6. Slow start for Pringle because the passing game worked for Calvillo on a couple of early touchdowns. Alouettes have first possession of the second half, beginning at the 42-yard line. Pringle gets the call to his right, slices through to nearly the 50.
Asked John Hewart yesterday, does he do anything differently with Mike Pringle in town? And he kind of gave you that kind of matter-of-fact look and said, no, we just got to tackle. This is where he's going to get the ball a whole lot more. With the lead in the second half, it's Pringle time. See if they want to tackle. Is he smiling at them?
Yeah, he's happy right now. And you can bet that Pringle will see a decent amount of the football here in the second half. He does get stronger as the game goes on. Calvillo puts this one up. Browning has a first down. Browning is undercut by Vernon Mitchell.
You talked about Calvillo back to his days in Las Vegas in the first half, and he liked to throw the ball up. We talked about how that was the fast break offense. Went to Hamilton and really tried to do a lot more of that, throwing the ball deep, and he took a ton of hits. He just got pounded in Hamilton. In Montreal, he's learned how to be patient.
Well, the Tiger Cats of the Calvillo era were not as good a football team as he's got in front and behind him right now. In fairness there. Here's Mike Pringle. Grab from behind. Calvin Tingle in. The gain is a couple.
Calvin Tingle is the reason that the Argos felt that they could trade Michael O'Shea. Get a guy in the middle that led the league in tackles. That's, of course, where O'Shea played.
And no doubt he was the top defensive player in the league last year. Voters for the Dodge Awards got it absolutely right. He had a superb season. 2nd and 8. Calvillo looks deep into heavy coverage down there. The closest Argonaut to it was Dre Harris, and there were no Alouettes in the immediate vicinity. Alfonso Browning was the closest receiver in the zone.
Well, if there's any question as to whether or not the loss of Neil Ford and Ozumo KK are going to be a problem for the Argos, take a look at their offensive line and the protection that Anthony Calvillo has on this play. Lots of passing lanes, steps up in there nice and throws the ball untouched. Rick Cunningham and Dwayne Morgan are doing a nice job replacing those two all-stars.
But he was off the money. He missed by a bunch there to finding a receiver in spite of the time he had.
Yeah, the O-line can't throw it, too.
No, I understand that. Smith cut down in his tracks. A super tackle. 39-yard punt. And Eric Riddick leading the Alouette tacklers there, celebrating a super special teams tackle. Special night for Argo fans. Number 88, Paul Mazzotti, is honored. Team owner Sherwood Schwartz honors the great career of Paul Mazzotti, the all-time leading receiver in Toronto Argonaut history.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention.
Paul Mazzotti, his son Andrin, this is a very special day for you. You're an emotional person. How emotional was it to see your name up there in the rafters?
It's almost surreal to see your name up there. It's like, you know, when are they going to peel it off? It's almost a strange feeling to see your name up there with a lot of the people that are already up there, and it's just an extreme honor.
Well, it's been a tough game so far for your Argos. How tough is it this first month? They say it's the toughest for an athlete. Obviously, I guess you're feeling some withdrawal maybe.
No question, especially at a home opener. Watching on TV in Saskatchewan was one thing, but to be here and not being able to go out there, it tears at you, but it's just something you got to go through and go to the next step.
Congratulations on a great career and good luck as the Executive Vice President, Paul.
Thanks, Dave.
Not a happy night for Mazzani as he looks out over the football field. Barron Miles picked off a pass intended for Tyrone Brown to set the Alouettes up in great position.
Jimmy Kemp was trying to go across the middle, and Lester Smith is just going to smack Brown right in the mouth when the ball's in the air, and in his hands it pops up, and Barron Miles picks up the tip drill.
First and 10 Alouettes at the Argo 15. Calvillo with time. Miss Pringle.
Speaking of former Argos, that's another one. Lester Smith used to be the free safety here in Toronto, and last year played in Montreal, and has really solidified that secondary, and he came up from the safety position and really put the big hit there.
Few ex-Argos hanging around on the Alouette defense. There's Urban Smith as well, Swift Birch, Kelly Wilshire. That's on defense.
Well, Jimmy Kemp threw an interception. Does that mean it's Jay Barker's turn?
Well, it could well be.
Or maybe Greg Hill, the third-team guy.
Couldn't put that all on the quarterback, I didn't think.
No, not at all.
Calvillo, end zone toss, touchdown, Montreal. Wide open, Browning. And Calvillo is having his way with this Argonaut defense. Alfonso Browning, second big play of the night.
It's called sudden change, and when you get that turnover, everybody's in a high there. Everyone's going out with a lot of momentum, and you want to make sure you capitalize on it and really put that exclamation mark on the fact that you're going to win this game and create a gap in the score that you can't come back from. And that's what you want to do after a turnover. Alfonso Browning's having a huge night.
15-yard catch there for the touchdown. 102 yards for Browning last week. He'll likely hit that tonight. Terry Baker adds to the Alouette total as he bangs one off the Windows Cafe. Alfonso Browning with a touchdown. The Alouettes comfortably in front, 27-6. Slide back, Alfonso Browning having quite a night for the Alouettes. Fifth catch goes for a touchdown. He's got 109 yards.
Alfonso Browning's going to go over and thank Lester Smith. Here's the touchdown, and Adrian Smith, safety for the Argos, gets influenced by Jock Climby, and that opens the seam up for Alfonso Browning. Browning will go over and give half of that game ball that he probably will get to Anthony Calvillo, and he's going to have to give another half to Lester Smith for the hit. And then, I'm running out of halves. There's a nice hit right there. That creates a turnover.
Tyrone Brown trying to get some field position for the Argos. They need a good drive and quickly here. And Brown ran a long way for a couple of yards. 70-yard kickoff. Actually comes up with 15 on the return. Tito Hanna made the tackle. Well, rotating quarterbacks.
We put our camera over there to show you the quarterbacks coming out because we're not really sure which one will. I mean, even though that was not Jimmy Kemp's fault, it was great timing by Lester Smith on the hit on Tyrone Brown that caused the turnover. That's not Kemp's fault, but John Hewer may pull him anyway.
Yeah, it's Jay Barker who gets the yank, and Kemp is in. Kemp knows the feeling. It's happened to him once tonight. So Barker will hold the clipboard for a sequence or two. And who knows what Heward might do after that.
Well, he may go to Greg Hill. In the press conference, he kept saying that Greg Hill's the guy he wants to see more than anything. Very little experience, almost no experience. And Jay Barker is going to, obviously, the second guy. Hill's number 3.
On second down, another pick. Again, it's Barron Miles, number 31 for the Alouettes. That's 2 in a row for number 31.
Yeah, but you got to give your quarterback some weapons. And I don't think right now Jimmy Kemp in this offense has any weapons to throw to. Richard Clark runs down the field from the tight end spot in this play. Now, you tell me where else Kemp can go with the football. There's no one else there. I mean, Clark his only option. And look, there's 3 Alouette defenders there, including Barron Miles, who comes up with the interception. there's not a lot of choices in a double tight end offense in the CFL to throw the ball down the field. He looks for his tight end. He's the only guy he's really got, so he tries it anyway, gets it picked off.
Another opportunity for Montreal and Anthony Calvillo. Here's Mike Pringle running wild, straight up the middle. And that'll be close to a first down. He's inside the 40. This guy loves to run at any time of the game.
Think about back to that year, Mike Pringle over 2,000. Look at the years that he has had. That was 98, 2065, 94. He holds place number 1 and 2 of the all-time list. 3 years he could catch George Reed.
Last year, 1,656 yards for Pringle. He missed a game or two.
Right now, he's just over 5,000 yards behind George Reed on the all-time list. And what's interesting in the CFL, we've just seen Alan Pitts become the all-time receiver. Saw that last year. This year, we could see Damon Allen become the all-time passing leader in CFL history. And in a couple of years, Pringle wants to play longer. We could see that rushing record dropped as well.
Talked about Pringle needing 236 yards to move into second place all-time behind George Reed. And with 236 yards in the early part of the season, he will pass Johnny Bright, who is second on that list. This play is whistled down. It was 2nd and 6 for the Alouettes. 8:33 to go.
It really is amazing. You think about 8 years in the league for Mike Pringle. You know, George Reed was 13, I believe, that he played.
And Bright was 13 seasons to
That's right,
hit number 2.
And you know, he's right on the doorstep for number 2, and we'll do that probably next game, if not, well, maybe not this game. He's running out of time, but he will do it by next game. And it really is amazing. The guy, since he really became a starter when this team was with Baltimore, has averaged over 1,600 yards a season.
Offside, Toronto, number 41, first down.
Problems continue for the Argonauts. Raposo nailed there.
1,600 yards. It's almost 1,700 yards a season for Mike Pringle in that time. Now, first of all, you got to think a running back takes so much pounding that he's not even going to be able to last full seasons. Because, you know, these guys get hurt quite often, the amount of hits they take. But Pringle is in such great shape. He's so strong that he's been able to do that over his career.
Penalty gives the Alouettes a first down. Calvillo gives the ball to Pringle again. He loves to run. Jason Jenkins has moved into the defensive setup for the Argonauts in relief of Johnny Scott, who was taken out in the first half. Out of Nebraska, he's a rookie, and he's in tough with that hard-hitting offensive line for the Alouettes here tonight.
Well, this will be a good initiation for Jason Jenkins, is to see tackling Mike Pringle all night. See how good you are.
Guess who? 27 again.
It's disheartening for the defense as well when you turn the ball over a couple times in a row. Montreal's been driving it down on you. You get Pringle pounding away, and it really makes it tough on the Argo defense. Charlie Taft knows John Hewer just wants to see who's going to play when it's bad. That's one thing coaches look for when they go back to the film. When you're down, when you're getting blown out, turning the ball over, who still steps up and plays hard.
Alouettes continue the drive. It is 2nd and 5. At the 10, Calvillo over the middle. Short of the touchdown is Ben Cahoon, who was wrapped up at about the 2-yard line. Cahoon's had a nice night.
Well, you got 3 rookies in the secondary for the Argos. Alfonso Browning was coming in here licking his chops. He's had a big night. Ben Cahoon, you mentioned, has made a few catches, and then you look at what they're running against, and Richard Brooks, Vernon Mitchell, and Trey Harris. It's all rookies back there in the secondary, and they've had to come up and tackle that guy a couple times too.
From the 2, first down goal to go. Pringle turns the corner, spins, touchdown.
Oh, man.
He was hammered by Tiggle and still got away, spun his way and across the goal line.
Wow, that's vintage Mike Pringle right there. first tackler can't get him. That's just it. You might as well just realize that if you're going to stop Pringle on defense, you're going to need more than one guy to tackle him.
Listen in.
Wow.
Took 2 hits there and still found the goal line from 2 yards out.
2 big hits.
Baker for one more. And the Alouettes are giving the Argos another lesson. It's 34-6. Argos facing a steady diet of Pringles tonight. Mike Pringle having another wonderful evening on the turf at Skydome. He's played well here over the years. From a couple of yards out, this is a touchdown the hard way. Nailed twice here.
It's a hit right in the hole.
Maybe 3 times.
But that's
Capers.
Yeah, but that's a
Tingle
DB.
couldn't stop him either.
Byron Capers a DB. He's not going to stop him. No shot. You know, he really has it all except for a nickname.
Well, you should name him. You need a nickname for this guy.
We need a nickname for Mike Pringle. I mean, Mike the Piston Pringle. How's that sound?
It's not bad.
Not bad. Well, we got to come up with one.
We'll have to sell it, though. Tyrone Brown for the Argonauts. 6 minutes to go, third quarter.
All right.
The Argos begin at the 30.
We got to head over to the sideline and let's see which quarterback we're going to... Oh, a new one.
This is Greg Hill, third Argo quarterback of the night. John Hewart, as Glenn mentioned earlier, said this was the guy he really wanted to see. I don't know how the other quarterbacks react when they hear that, but this guy is a raw rookie out of Tracy School, Georgia Southern.
And he's a runner. He played a little wide receiver in his time. And there's the other 2. Now they'll just have to wait and see how long it'll go before one of them are back in.
First snap from center for Hill in the Canadian Football League. You see the speed. Rolls out, and he's chased out by Sylvester Miller.
Well, you know, you could say in one hand it's 34-6. You throw Greg Hill, excuse me, into the game, and why not at 34-6? Just see what he can do. But in the CFL, with this much time left in the game, you can put some points on the board. You can try to run your offense. You can get ready basically for next week. Now, is Greg Hill going to start next week? Likely not.
Well, we'll find that out, I'm sure, though.
You never know, I guess.
The way things are going, he'll likely play a little bit next week. Greg Hill is sacked for the first time in his CFL career. Steve Charbonneau was the first Alouette through, number 98.
But, John, from a player's perspective, I mean, let's put it this way. If a coach said that I was the starting free safety, but if I made one mistake, I was coming out and there's 3 of them, and as soon as a mistake is made, the rotation is on.
Did you ever get the hook?
It is awful tough to play under those circumstances. I don't remember if I ever got the hook, and if I did, I'd forget it. DBs have short memories. But how do these guys cope with this is the question. I mean, they have no choice. He's the head coach, and that's the way it's going to run, and he's told them that. But it must be tough for all 3 quarterbacks.
Prefontaine hammers this one. Winston October, returning, spinning, deep to the 45. Wrapped up there by Michael Jenkins. 11 on the return. It's all Montreal at Skydome so far tonight. First and 10 for the Alouettes. Beginning at the Montreal 45. Calvillo, far side. Not much running room after the catch. Catch made by Tyree Davis. 8 plays to cover 48 yards, and Baron Miles gets an assist on both those touchdowns with back-to-back interceptions, one off each quarterback.
No question. He may get a chance to get one off the next one. There's all-time yardage from scrimmage just past Leo Lewis.
The Lincoln locomotive from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back in the 60s. Closing in on Johnny Bright is Mike Pringle. Here's Calvillo, almost a first down.
Now, with the way that the Argos offensively have been playing and the score what it is right now, 34-6, you start to wonder if maybe Anthony Calvillo will take a rest, and when Charlie Taft will want to do that and protect his starting quarterback, maybe give Stanley Jackson a rep or two. That's the decision that he has to make now. He wants to keep his starters in there, make sure that the game is well in hand, but I would say 34-6, generally speaking, isn't a deficit that you can't come back from if you're moving the ball and you're in that kind of game. But the Argos offensively just have not been doing anything.
Well, they haven't moved the ball effectively at all in the recent going, and now the third quarterback listed on the depth chart is into the game for the Argonauts. It looked so easy for John Heward last week in Saskatchewan at certain times of the game. Argos put up 36 points.
Well, they ran the ball really well against the smaller Saskatchewan defense. They haven't been able to do that tonight.
Another first down for the Alouettes to continue this drive with less than 3 minutes to go. Toronto has only had 5 plays from scrimmage in the third quarter.
That's the stare. There's the stare right there.
I haven't figured out why he wears the red jacket on the sidelines unless it's left over from his days at Acadia.
Maybe it's a superstition.
It could well be. Calvillo, all kinds of time, man open, touchdown toss, comes up a little shy at the 5.
What a ball.
It was a perfect pass. Tyree Davis has a couple in a row.
Guy we haven't talked about all game, Tyree Davis, had a big week in week 1. He goes down on the post pattern from the outside right here. Watch Tyree Davis take off down the field. This is just speed. My guy against your guy. See if I can beat you. And he's got a rookie on the corner, and Richard Brooks runs straight by him, untouched, comes up with the catch. 106 yards last week. That's his first catch tonight, I believe.
We had one just a moment or two ago, but that for 48 yards there. 1:32 to play, third quarter. Alouettes threatening to score again. Pringle gets the call. Touchdowns for Mike Pringle. That from 6 yards out. And the Alouettes are showing no mercy as they pour it on the Argonauts here.
I mean, you know, you got to play. You don't want to. You're not going to lie down. You're not going to hand the other team the ball, even if you have a big lead. You got to go out and play. And no one wanted to tackle Mike Pringle. He walked into the end zone.
So Mike Pringle has a couple and 6 more yards for his total. Terry Baker has not missed a thing tonight. A couple of field goals earlier, and then he's been busy converting touchdowns here in the second half.
Well, it may be one of the easiest Mike Pringle will ever score. Takes it to the right. Bruno Hippel gives him a little lead block, and untouched into the end zone.
Alouettes have now scored 41 straight points after falling behind 6-0 in the early going. 41 in a row. Pringle has a couple of touchdowns in recent moments, and in between Pringle's touchdown, there was the touchdown by Tyree Davis. Saskatchewan Roughriders hit the road for the first time on Thursday at BC Place. The Lions with a super comeback effort against the Tiger Cats in Hamilton on Adidas Friday Night Football last week.
Of course, the Riders lost game 1 to the Toronto Argonauts, but did show some good signs, especially offensively. It looked like they have a potent receiving core, and Henry Burris threw the ball quite well, especially in the second half. So see what the Roughriders come up with Danny Barrett in town.
I was really impressed with Burris's fake and then touchdown toss to Dan Farthing in that one. He had Farthing wide open. Pretty play. Here's the pinball, Mike Clemens. He hasn't been very active either, and there's not much on the return there.
Okay, well, let's roll the dice and see who the quarterback. Oh, look, rolled lucky 7, and here comes Jay Barker as the new quarterback.
Now, was Barker replaced by Greg Hill? Or was that Kemp who was replaced by Greg Hill most recently?
I have completely lost track
of the complete order.
But it amazes me, and I really don't know how these quarterbacks can handle this situation. This has got to be very difficult for them. I mean, you give Greg Hill 2 snaps. You know?
Michael Jenkins averaged 6.4 yards a carry last week at Taylor Field. Picked up 148 yards, and he hasn't broken anything at all here tonight.
Well, you know, the Argos got that first drive. They got 3 points out of it from Jimmy Kemp, and then really have been behind ever since. I mean, 41 straight points by Montreal. So that takes you out of your running game. If you have a double tight formation, it's awful tough to get into a passing game.
Yeah, the second field goal by the Argos came off a turnover. Set up deep in Montreal territory. Barker hammered from behind.
Well, see, here's what I'm talking about in this offense. You can break it down and try and simplify it as much as you can, but Michael Jenkins, the running back out of the backfield, was the only target that Jay Barker had. He broke containment. He broke out of the pocket and had time to look down the field. But the only guy out there for him at the time was Michael Jenkins. He was covered by a corner in Irv Smith, a guy that gets paid to cover wide receivers. Now he's sitting beside a running back, and Jay Barker has no one to throw the football to.
Prefontaine has punted well. Winston October is very close to breaking one. Oh boy, here's the heat. Prefontaine has to escape. There are flags everywhere. Prefontaine will have the first down, depending on what the infraction was. No Prefontaine, and that should have been the last play of the quarter, but we can't end on a penalty. 18 yards for Prefontaine after the Alouettes put the big charge on.
Well, Prefontaine's been almost the best tackler for the Argos and the best offensive threat so far, and avoided a couple of blocked kicks. Again, there was pressure from Montreal, and Prefontaine has really got to be watching the pressure now, which is tough for him because the punter's got to keep his eye on the ball all the time.
Holding. Montreal, number 69. Penalties declined.
It's been that kind of night.
First
Well,
down.
I was just laughing. Did you see, as George Johnson called the penalty, he put his hand out and hammered Andre Kerwin right in the chops. Tough night for the Argos. Super night for the Alouettes. 1 quarter to go at Skydome tonight.
The CFL live on TSN at the quarter.
Well, let's be honest, that was ugly and has the potential to get a lot uglier. I don't remember a time where one team has been more dominant in a quarter of football than the Alouettes were now. The Argos not even sniffing a first down in this one. And Matt, give credit to the Owls. They were all over them, and Mike Pringle's going to love the rest of this.
That's right. The Owls are flexing their muscle, and so is Mike Pringle. Mike Pringle is continually carrying the load for the Montreal Alouettes, and what we're seeing is him just thriving on the fact that Haskins is not in there, and he's going to tote the rock more often, and we see one of the toughest 2-yard touchdown runs you'll see all season long. He takes on 2 vicious head-on collisions with the Toronto Argonaut defenders, and Tiggle actually plummets him into the end zone there. That's true Mike Pringle carrying the load. Pringle is establishing the line of scrimmage, and then AC is being able to distribute the ball throughout the receivers, and they're having a field day with the Argonauts right now.
You're right. This is a great start for Montreal, not only last week, but tonight in the first 3 quarters. And the interesting thing about this team is that they have four America non-starters, which is really unusual. And that's a testament to the Canadian talent on this team. As I've said many times, the teams that win in this league have depth at quarterback and quality Canadians. And Montreal looks good in both areas, Chris.
And for Toronto, what really fascinates me is, remember the start, how really well they played, bang, 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 field goal? It took 2 injuries and they fell apart. Depth is the biggest issue with the Toronto Argonauts, James.
And as we keep track of the quarterback shuffle back home, Argos fans, Kemp, Barker, Kemp, Hill, Barker is the rotation so far. On the positive side, they will still be 1-1 after this week. Let's send you back to Toronto.
That is about the only positive for the Argonauts so far in their home opener at Skydome. The numbers through 3 quarters are not flattering at all. Just 128 net yards for a team that put up 455 yards last week. And the time of possession, Glenn,
that's the big one, yeah.
10 minutes.
When you're out there 10 minutes longer than the other defense, you're going to get tired, and the Argos are just getting beat on now.
Couple of touchdowns for Pringle. Big night for Alfonso Browning, and 21 points in the third quarter.
It was actually 6-0 Argos at one point.
It was. Not for long, though.
No.
Parker is the quarterback, and he misses Tyrone Brown.
But, you know, this is a good football team that the Toronto Argonauts are playing in the Montreal Alouettes. And it's a very good team that has had to rebuild on offense, especially. I mean, they lost their starting quarterback, Tracy Ham. They lost a couple of tackles. And Charlie Tabb has done a great job, and so has the entire management core of the Montreal Alouettes, bringing in new players. And they have really filled the holes very well. This is why the Argos are down the way they are. They're playing a real good team.
Alouettes really excited about the experience. Here's Parker, and he's down.
Sylvester Miller is another one of those guys. You have to fill a hole. Alfred Payton was the rush end in Montreal last year. He is now in Winnipeg. They had to find a guy that could replace Alfred Payton. Sylvester Miller has been one of them, and he has been a great surprise. Straight speed rusher off the corner, had a great training camp in preseason, and he has rotated with Tito Hanna in the lineup. Look at how quickly he gets off the corner and is in Jay Barker's face.
He got there first, and Swift Perch, number 90, wrapped up Jay Barker. 3 sacks for Montreal, 0 for Toronto so far tonight. Prefontaine left, puts it down to Winston October. Pretty good hit on October, stopped after about a 4-yard return. Montreal continues to dominate the Argonauts in their home opener at Skydome.
That's his total in the 2 games.
Enters Stanley Jackson out of Ohio State in his 2nd season with the Alouettes. He spent last year watching Anthony Calvillo watch Tracy Ham. And now he's moved up into Calvillo's position from 1999 and 1988 as well.
If Calvillo keeps playing this way and puts up numbers like he's done tonight and like he did last week, Stanley's going to get a lot of mop-up duty.
Yeah, add that up quickly. Is that 37 of 52 for 723 for Calvillo in 2 games?
Once again, I was told there'd be no math.
He's rushed for a touchdown and tossed for a couple more and gets a well-deserved rest. Mike Pringle will not rest for a while.
Well, yeah, he won't. Like, Charlie Tabb makes those decisions, obviously, who's going to play and who's not. He wants to get Calvillo out of there. If he went up to Mike Pringle and said, Mike, why don't you rest a little bit and we'll let some of the other guys rest? No way. I think Pringle would be in an argument with him on the sideline because Pringle wants to play every down.
He was not used a great deal in the early going. That's because Calvillo had a hot hand and was throwing bombs in the early moments of this game. 2nd and 3, Alouettes now. Jackson on the run and has a wide open Mike Pringle. It'll be a 1st down. Easily done for the Alouettes. Nice poise by...
Well, it was. You know, when I first saw the play develop from Stanley Jackson, I thought, you know, he was being too patient. He has Mike Pringle initially to just dump it if he looks there. Now, if he throws it there, Pringle has it with an open field one-on-one situation. He waits. Pringle finds another hole, and then they hook up later. Pretty good poise, throwing on the run, and
across his body as well.
Well, it's a chance when the game's pretty much in hand. It's a little different defensively that he's facing, but get some reps.
Pringle again, and a marker down far side as Pringle crosses the 50. He'll be well short of the 1st down. Back to Anthony Calvillo. What a start to 2000. 379 yards last week against Winnipeg. 344 and 3/4
Montreal,
this week against the Argos.
1st down repeated.
Well, you know, when you look back to Calvillo last year, 2,500 yards passing. He completed 66% of his passes a year ago, though. So when he was in the game, he definitely had success for Tracy Ham last year. And this year, he's even increased those numbers percentage-wise.
Yeah, he's at 71% for the 2 games so far.
That's incredible.
Jackson can't find anyone home. Now he does. Jock Climby
back to the original line of scrimmage, but Jackson's had all time to throw the football. No pressure from the Toronto Argonaut front four. Of course, they lost Johnny Scott to injury, so they've had to patch it up a little bit. Jackson gets a chance with not a whole lot of people in his face to throw the football down the field.
Alouettes have had to make some adjustments on defense as well, with one injury too. Their scheduled starting linebacker, Myron Newsom, he was out on the first play of the game, out after the opening kickoff. So back to 10 yards necessary. This is second down. Jackson just got it away. And there was nowhere for Climby to go after making the catch. Martavius Houston made the stop. Houston in the linebacking core with Calvin Tiggle in the middle and Glenn Young on the strong side.
Well, I'll tell you about Stanley Jackson. He looks pretty good in the first few plays and getting the chance to play, but it's one thing to play against the defense that pretty much just wants to hit the showers right now. It's another to play against a team that's ready to play against you, and the Argos have pretty much mailed this one in from here on in, it looks like.
Brown is back for a Baker punt. Baker standing at his 45. A little bit of a charge. Baker gets it away. Here's Tyrone Brown. Looks for room to the near side, but there's nowhere to go there. Two Alouettes force him out after an 18-yard return. Who will be quarterback for the Argonauts when we return? It's Lucky Looney night at Skydome, and someone's won a bundle. Here's David Amber.
That's right, John. Loonies do add up. Just ask Nicole Kyle. Nicole Kyle, $20,612 in your hands. What are you going to do with the money?
Well, I think we'll take a trip, put some of it away. I don't know.
And this is your supposed boyfriend. I don't see a ring on the finger.
No, I don't either.
Well, we live together. That's important.
Alex Bracky's putting in his vows right about now. $20,612. Enjoy the game.
Give me a ring.
Enjoy the money. All right.
Thank you.
Will they live hit there? Yeah, will they live happily ever after?
Little hit there.
How will they share 20,612 loonies?
Well, it looks like if she doesn't get the ring, she's keeping the money herself, and that's it.
She's got a good negotiating point right there.
Wow, that's a good deal. 20,000. Didn't have to use any lifelines. The Argos could use some.
Well, the odds on the Argo lottery aren't bad. LaPointe into the Argo offensive scheme, carried for a few yards, and explaining tonight for the Argos, it's called back.
But here's what Toronto has to do now. I mean, there's still 10 minutes left. This is important time for them to gel. Important time for them to get back. Eric LaPointe getting a chance to play. But time to run their offense. I mean, if they're going to go with a double tight offense, you got to keep running it, even if you can't win this football game, and try and get it better so next week you have a chance.
As good as the Argos looked last week, they've looked as bad this night in their home opener. It's Barker's turn to quarterback the team. Intercepted. Another pickoff by the Alouettes. Davis Sanchez has that one. Alouettes really like this guy. Davis Sanchez.
Second interception on the season for Davis Sanchez. Last year he had 3, so he's well on his way to beating that total. First round pick.
Baron Miles has. Sorry, Glenn. Baron Miles has 2 interceptions himself tonight.
Tried to throw a timing pass to the out. Ball's on the way before the receiver turns out of his break. It's Tyrone Brown. He can't find the football, and Davis Sanchez does. And Barker goes,
oh no.
The good news is I'm probably not going to be back for the next series.
Alouettes first down. Just outside the 30, and Mike Pringle continues to pound away for 6. Wouldn't you think Pringle might want to take a little bit of a break?
Yeah, you almost wonder, but I'm honest. I was telling you the truth when I told you that Mike Pringle does not like to come out of any football game.
I understand.
Ever. And he will go and talk to the coaches if they ever take him out, so I know they like to leave Pringle in. But you're right. I mean, you would think that maybe you want to get him out so he doesn't hurt himself at this point in the game.
Closing in on 160 combined yards is number 27. He gets it again, cuts it up, has 3 more, and will be short of the first down. Roger Dunbrack, number 70, got him from behind.
Well, another record that Mike Pringle is chasing is 100-yard rushing games all time. And George Reed had 66. Mike Pringle's 53s. Climbing up that ladder as well.
1 touchdown for Pringle tonight, so that leaves him 2 rushing touchdowns behind Damon Allen with 74 in his career. So some interesting races.
Well, it's amazing that we're talking about all-time numbers in CFL history. The running back who's been in the league 8 years.
Yeah, that's the story. The records were laid down by guys who played 13 seasons. There's a break for the Argonauts as Baker is wide. Even with the score up there, Baker's not a happy guy right now. It's 42-6, Montreal dominating the Argos. Alouettes on their way to their 2nd straight victory. Here's David Amber.
Well, John, joining us is Jim Popp, the Director of Football Operations and the General Manager of the Alouettes. It's hard to contain that smile. 80 points in the first 2 games.
Well, the offense has functioned very well. We've had some early turnovers early in both games, but they've stuck together and performed well.
There was a lot of concerns this year coming in. You had a new makeshift offensive line. You had some changes. Tracy Ham gone. What has been the difference so far in the first 2 games for you?
Well, we had a great camp and continuity. Guys have come together very quickly with a new group, so very happy with a talented bunch.
Well, Jim, good luck, good work so far, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, John.
He's put together a nice football team, hasn't he?
Well, he does, and he always fills the holes. That's what we talked about earlier, is that Jim Popp finds a way to find players and fill holes that he has to fill. Every team loses players in the offseason. You know, I just want to get back to one point about this Argo team right now, because, you know, game 2 does not make or end the season.
Absolutely, it doesn't. And when you're playing a team like the Alouettes, it can be a little bit discouraging.
Sure, absolutely, playing against a very good football team. But John Heward right now has an opportunity with 7 minutes to see that offense move the football and try and get something going for next week. And what I'm talking about more than anything is, if he's going to run tight end offense all year, then why not work on the passing game right now, get him to hurry up, and who cares if you throw another interception? You know, it really doesn't matter what the score ends up at this point for this team. What they want to do is try and work on that offense, work on the passing game, and use this as a practice back into the season.
Sorry, Glenn. Eric Lapointe on back-to-back plays, 1 rush, 1 reception, but that's not enough to move this Argonaut team into first down territories. Last week in Saskatchewan, the Argonauts racked up 18 first downs. Tonight, a third of that, 6.
Whoa. 6 first downs. That means your defense is out there all night long.
They wrote a song about that once, didn't they? Prefontaine punted well. Hey, a one-hander to drag it down. That's cool. Winston October.
Did you see that?
That was very, very sharp.
That was amazing. He has made some great plays in this game, and he has definitely been a highlight for the Toronto Argonauts. Punter Noel Prefontaine has avoided a sure block. One hand grabs that high snap, pulls it down, and gets the kickoff. He avoided another block and ran for a first down. He made a couple of tackles in the open field. This guy's having a pretty good game. Good athlete.
He really is. Coming into the game, he averaged 46.3 yards per punt. Alouettes sent the ball again, though. Good field position to begin for Jackson at quarterback. Halfway to a first down as he connects with Jock Climby. Looking ahead, Labatt Blue Jays baseball comes your way on Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific, Phillies and the Blue Jays. Here from Skydome. 2 pennants there, celebrating the World Series wins.
93, that was a time ago now.
Yeah, we're getting close to 7 years. Yes, we are. Jackson's look rather strong here, Glenn. And coming into the game, he's been on the money a couple of times.
Well, that's what Jackson is using. Jackson is using this period right here and the rest of this game as a live practice situation. He gets a chance when the bullets are flying to go in and throw the ball. Jock Climby's had a good night as well. I mean, the receivers are going to have great nights when Calvillo's throwing like he is. But Jackson uses it as a chance to practice, just like the Argos should think about using this rest of this game on their offensive side of the ball.
It's back to reality for the Argonauts in their home opener tonight. After scoring 36 in week 1, they have managed 6 tonight. Tyrone Brown, Baker's kick, flag goes down. Contacting the kicker will be charged against Richard Brooks. 40-yard punt, no return, a flag at that end of the field as well.
You know what? That's not a bad penalty for Richard Brooks. I mean, obviously you don't want to turn the ball over, but there's a guy in a blowout game that's trying to make something happen. He came off the corner as hard as he could. He just didn't time it out quite properly. He hit Terry Baker, and he gets a penalty. The Alouettes are going to get the ball back. But
well, Baker went down.
Well, he ran right into his leg. So if it's not against Richard Brooks, then
no yards. Montreal, number 29. Contacting the kicker.
Oh, there you go.
Toronto, number 19. Will replay the down 5 yards back.
John Hewitt has had a long night in his home ballpark. Argonauts got the first 6. The Alouettes scored the next 42, and it is a head shaker. Third down for the Alouettes. Tyrone Brown drops deep for Toronto, standing back near his 10-yard line. Slight delay here after the penalties, but it will be a third down punting situation for Montreal. 5:52 to go till full time. These same 2 teams next week at Molson Stadium in Montreal. Baker, high kick. Brown waits at the 10. He lost the bunch. Pleasure to welcome a great coach in Canadian football and also the National Football League, Marv Levy, is up from the United States to watch an old friend coach a game here tonight and an old team play one. Marv, thank you very much for coming up.
Well, it's my pleasure. Come up. Believe it or not, this is the first in-person CFL game I've seen since our Grey Cup game in 1977.
That was the year you used the staples, right, Marv?
I didn't. Tony Proudfoot did.
Now, you haven't seen one live, and you come back, and the first one you see a tight end formation. Does that surprise you for this league?
Well, you know, as I say, I haven't studied the league that closely, but back when I played, we had a great tight end in Peter Dallariva with the Alouettes, and Tony Gabriel was over at Ottawa. So it doesn't surprise me. I understand it is very unusual for the league now. It's so pass-oriented.
Well, ever since Doug Flutie came up, they've spread everybody out, no backs, and lots of receivers, and this is a little different for John Hewitt.
And it was different for you defensive backs, too.
That's right.
Jay Barker, surrounded and smothered. Marv, how are you enjoying life in retirement, at least from standing on the sidelines? I know you're working in television.
Yes, I am doing some work in television with the Fox Sports Network. We do a Sunday morning pregame show, 11 o'clock Eastern time. I put in a plug.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I knew I would miss coaching. I had coached for 47 years, but there were also other things that I had wanted to do. So do I miss it? Yes. But do I regret what I had done? No.
TV's easy, too, isn't it?
Well, I can be wrong and maybe forget about it or ignore it. If you're wrong out on the football field, the fellows up here won't forget about it.
Everybody sees it down there, don't they?
That's right.
Prefontaine deep in his end zone to kick this one away. Marv, thanks very much for joining us. It's really good to see you looking so well, and I know you're a good friend of Canadian football. You enjoyed your years in Montreal.
I enjoyed them tremendously. I'm a good friend of Canadian football, of J.I. Albrecht here with the Argos, and of Rod Russ with the Montreal club. So I hope the league thrives, and I look for the Argos to get better than they are doing tonight.
Now, John Heward, you coached with John Heward. He also played for you. I don't imagine he's a happy guy tonight.
No, of course not. And you go through some of these things when you coach. You can see John right now looking very disconsolate, but he's a hard worker, and he'll get things turned around, I'm sure.
All right, Marv, thanks again. Pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Visit with both of you. Thanks.
Marv Levy coached the Alouettes to Grey Cup wins in 1974 and 1977. Led the Buffalo Bills to 4 Super Bowls, so that's 4 AFC championships. He had a great run as a head coach in football.
Talk about great runs. That was a pretty nice little run by.
That's Jamie Barnett, number 6 in there, so that's the third Alouette quarterback the third Alouette quarterback we've seen, and the 6th quarterback on the turf here at Skydome tonight. It's a 6-pack evening.
Yeah. Jamie Barnett, North Carolina State, 23 years old. Didn't think, I'm sure, that he would get a chance to play this year in the Canadian Football League on a live game situation, but with this kind of lead, it's not a tough decision.
Good fake by Barnett to Pringle, and Barnett has the first down himself off the right side, and around the end, Martavius Houston made the tackle. Boy, it's been a long night for Argonaut fans, and a longer night for the Argonaut coaching staff. 42-6, the Argos have scored 42 in a row. Solid night for the Alouettes offensively and defensively with 42 points after giving up the first 6. Another first down for Montreal at the Argonaut 22. And another quarterback in there who wants to put it in the end zone. Couldn't quite connect there. Jamie Bennett, number 6. Great athlete with a strong arm. Charlie should be smiling by now. This team has played well. And here's what we told you they had to do.
Well, they had to keep Daryl Mitchell off the board, 2 yards, and pretty much did that one, so we'll tick that off.
There you go. You were right there.
Force the rotation in quarterbacks. If John Heward has a hot quarterback, he's going to leave him in. Well, we saw all 3, and we saw him rotate about 14 different times and go deep.
Yes, sir.
6 plays over 20 yards, and 3 keys tick off, and it's 42-6.
We've had a pretty good night, much better than the Argos, haven't we?
It's a little easier up here. You got to admit that.
2:34 to go in the final quarter. A merciful conclusion to this would be welcomed as quickly as possible by the Toronto Argonauts and head coach John Heward.
Well, you don't have very much time to regroup when you're playing the Canadian Football League, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Going to have to replace a couple of players. Johnny Scott, one on defense, and Steve Salter possibly on offense. See how badly hurt they are. Trying to fill those holes.
I wonder if he'll change out of the red suit now that it's turned out this way. Change into team color. Baker has made 2 of 3 from 21, and 21 ironically, and has another one. 45-6. Here's what we thought the Argos had to do tonight. John Heward should have had this in his game plan.
Well, first off, we thought that they had to get after Pringle. 160 yards of offense from him. Most of it in the second half, but Calvillo also had the hot hand. They had to be fearless on first down. Their average gain on first down is just over 3 yards. That means they're in second and long all game, and tons of takeaways. Well, the Argos had 3 turnovers. Pretty much worked out.
Well, it wasn't hard to figure what they really needed to do tonight. They obviously needed a quick start, and I thought when they marched for the opening field goal, it's maybe the Argonauts would be able to stay close.
Well, based on the film that I watched from the Saskatchewan game with Toronto, it looked to me like they were having success running the ball and doing it on first down. And when you do that, you don't have to have a real dynamic passing game. You can run the ball on second down. But they didn't have that tonight. That's why it was important for them to establish that, be fearless on first down and get some yardage. They didn't do that. They got behind early.
Parker makes contact on the far side. Andre Kerwin comes down with the ball.
The Montreal Alouettes are off to a great start to the 2000 season. They're looking in that fight. And I know they've got their eyes squarely set on their rivals, Hamilton Tiger Cats, the team that has been in the Grey Cup 2 years in a row.
At the expense of Charlie Taff and the Alouettes.
Yep. You think back to the big Eastern final last year when the third down gamble by Ron Lancaster was the difference.
Kerwin again, near the 50.
One play, and Charlie Taff and the Montreal Alouettes were out of the playoffs and not in the Grey Cup, and they'd love to be back in that race again.
2 years ago at Skydome, Charlie Taff was watching the game as well as a member of the Alouettes coaching staff.
That's right, yeah.
And it was Pinball Clemens who broke his heart.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that kind of way that they've lost twice in a row that Charlie Taff makes you that much more hungry.
Lapointe made the catch. That's Eric Lapointe, who got a chance to get into the action late in the fourth quarter. Well, here's what we have for a game story. Too many points for the Alouettes. 45 unanswered Alouette points. Calvillo had another nice night.
344 yards passing. Backs up a 379-yard night in week 1.
And Mike Pringle beats the Argos single-handedly when you look at 160 yards that he generated compared to 158 for the Argos. Barker makes contact. And it's Kerwin again.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, a good drive, if they can finish it off with 43 seconds left here, the Argos make a big difference for the practice week.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to be going out to Arundel to hang around with the Argo coaching staff. Tyree Davis is helping out. Now, that's Ellen down there, who usually holds that parabolic mic, and Tyree is helping out.
Watch it
Tyree,
run.
can you hear
Watch
us?
the pass. Watch everything.
He said, watch the run, watch the pass, watch everything.
We'll take that.
You can have fun when you're up 45-6. Now he's asking how it works.
Yeah, and
it looks kind of
should
cool.
ask a guy like you.
It looks kind of cool, but how it works, I don't know how it works. Don't ask me. He
Okay, Tyree, get us some good sound here. 1st and 10, Argos at the Alouette 37. Parker escapes. Well short of a first down. Actually, that was 1st and 15 on the penalty. 17 seconds to go. We heard it very well, Tyree.
Yeah. Did you hear it?
Hey, guys.
He's talking to us now. How you doing, Terry?
Y'all doing okay? Who's got a nicer butt?
Good game.
Dave Ryan, our audio director down there, says he's doing a pretty good job.
Well, that's good.
Mercifully, this should be it for the Toronto Argonauts. Jump ball. It's to the turf in the end zone. Incomplete. Tough night for Jay Barker, for Jimmy Kemp, even for Greg Hill and all the Argonauts. John Heward is back to the drawing board first thing tomorrow morning to try and figure out what went wrong with this offense that worked so well last week. But in reality, it was the Montreal Alouettes that did that. And we'll present the game ball tonight to this guy, number 13.
Anthony Calvillo, another big night for the Montreal Alouettes, throwing the football, distributing it to Mike Pringle and the rest of his receiving corps, and he gets the Adidas game ball.
He should. He was on the money. Charlie Taff is unbeaten and leading the way in the CFL East. Montreal hammers the Argonauts right into the turf at Skydome. The final is 45-6.
CFL football on TSN is brought to you by Molson Canadian. I am Canadian.
Well, let's see. We saw all 6 quarterbacks tonight. Toronto for all the wrong reasons, Montreal for the right reasons. Almost a perfect game for the Alouettes.
Almost a perfect game, yes. But you heard Charlie Taft say they had to correct some mistakes, and that's exactly what they did. They weathered the storm early, just like they did last week against Winnipeg. They weathered the storm against Toronto, then they took control, and then what good teams do, they buried the Argonauts. Charlie Taft says there's some mistakes to be corrected. They'll look at this film, have fun, Chris, and then they'll have a great train ride home, and they'll get better next week.
Yeah, this is an enjoyable time for the Montreal Alouettes. When you demolish the team, in particular in the second half, it's a fun ride back home. The 2 injuries Toronto have is everything, because if those 2 kids can't play, it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to bounce back in Montreal, Eric.
Chris, there's nothing pretty about losing 45-6, but I think it's important to remember that this team is still 1-1. If they can win either of the next 2, then they're still in pretty good shape. But I think for that to happen, they've got to quit playing musical chairs at the quarterback position.
All right, our next game is up on Thursday night. We hope it's a little bit closer than this one. The Saskatchewan Roughriders taking on the BC Lions. Don't forget all the stats, the weekly features on our website, www.tsn.ca/CFL. Sports Desk is up in a half hour's time. Rod and Dutch, the full story from Atlanta and All-Star 2000. Coming up next, the Tour de France. They're in the mountains. Stage 11. Lance Armstrong in the lead. Absolute and total domination from Mike Pringle and the Alouettes as they improve to 2-0. This has been a presentation of TSN, Canada's most watched sports network.